fun because you're gonna wind up being episode 51.
All right.
Badass Records podcast.
Is that a good number?
Well, if you are somebody that likes things to, don't ever deviate or it's the end, I'm dropping one a week, and 52
is the
in
end
theory
of the year.
would mean that I've been doing it for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of goofy gaps in the between episodes 1 and 3, but anyway, you're right there. You're right there.
I would prefer to be 52.
I know. But
It's
nevertheless,
really the place of honor. Second most important, second best, second.
I nerdily try to assign some kind of special value to every. So you're majority.
Do we have a sports player? And I do mean any sport. That's why I use that terminology. Is there a 51 that matters to us?
I don't know who it is right now, but I'm going to go with majority.
But the answer is yes.
51% gets you the win.
My dad was born in 51.
I think this house was built in 51.
Okay, that is a lot. Spooky.
Yeah. If we took a minute when we were done and rooted around over there, we would find the deed that says not to be sold to Catholics, Jews, or blacks. I think your parents' deed says the same thing.
No. So who built it then?
I mean, I think that
Protestants?
I don't know, J.C. Nichols, whoever the people.
But if not Catholics, Jews, or blacks, like just who does that leave? Mexicans?
Yeah,
non-religious Mexicans.
They're all tucking their coffee. No soy católico.
And they're like, well, technically that wasn't in the rules. You're one of the minorities we will tolerate.
Have you seen Louis C.K. Sincerely?
Probably not.
So he opens with a.
Is it newish since after he got?
Yeah, first one back, and he talks about it.
Of course he does.
In depth. But
I feel more embarrassed for him than like he's just the worst.
Right.
Like obviously he did something gross and super inappropriate, but
more
I
than
feel
once.
Yes.
But immediately owned it.
And I will just say, it feels like he had a compulsion problem. Like that does again not excuse it.
No.
But it means like my general warmth toward him doesn't have to totally change.
I love you for that. So he's like, I'm talking to my friend the other day about Jesus Christ. And I mentioned that he was.
I love that you clarified that.
He did. I'm giving the bit, dude.
Okay, good.
So, and I happened to mention that Jesus was Jewish. And my friend goes, Jesus was Jewish? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I don't think so. And he goes, well, it already all happened, so it doesn't matter what you think. And he goes, man, think about it. He goes, you fucking think about it. What was he? Was he Protestant? Was he Catholic? And when they hung him, he's like, oh, that's why we have these. Oh, fuck, I'm the little guy on there. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, he's so funny.
He is so funny.
And so non-problematically funny. Like, really I do believe his funny.
Yes.
Is true.
Well, the next place he goes, every religion has a thing that I just don't. And he goes, like, every time a guy does a jihad thing and God's got to hand him 72 virgins. And he's like, first of all, who are these women? Are these like, is he like, all right, nobody fuck these. I'm saving them for that guy. Or does he whip them up like farm-raised salmon? And then he goes, that's got to be for God. That's got to be one of those things where, a guy blows up a bus in Tel Aviv and he's about to hand him 72 virgins. And he's like, fuck, what am I doing? I need a drink. I got to get out of this.
Well, I'm sure that some of those virgins were on that bus. So maybe there's sort of a self-populated.
Hey,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, so you're.
Does it matter how old they are?
No. Well, I don't think so. He goes, first of all,
I've said in a long time.
First of all, they're only virgins when you get them. After that,
Really, one time.
And he goes, there's some guy like 3 days in, he's like, fuck, I only have 3 left and 69 whores. But thank you for being here. You're in town for a quick minute holiday visit, and the fact that we were able to find a little thank you. I know you have a lot of things going on. Normally, I would spend a good chunk covering bio, but I have a rough.
I feel like you've known me a while.
For a minute, I was married to your sister for 11 years and
together for 5 before that.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say some.
And then, you had progeny, so even after you weren't married, we still know each other.
I know we do.
And you live so close.
I know.
You actually can't escape me.
It's true.
I am your personal poltergeist.
Come to the light, Carol Ann.
No. Carol Ann, stay away from the light.
But doesn't she later, become a spooky something?
And she pops back out of whatever that television static is, covered in what seems to be
goo.
A lot of pink lube.
Okay. Oh, interesting. I mean,
it's basically a rebirthing.
Multiple senses.
And wasn't the dad in that coach?
Like Craig
T. Nelson.
He must have been young.
He was
with
young.
A big head of hair, I bet.
And he wore like Magnum PI level shorts.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, he was hot. So was his wife when all those chairs moved.
So born and raised KC,
Yep.
Never moved until college, right?
Correct.
And then
never came back.
When you are back, right? When you are back, you're sleeping in the only home you ever knew in your youth.
Accurate. Although my bedroom, which is the bedroom that from my birth I shared with Anna until my sister, until she was like 10. And then she moved into the third bedroom that is now not a bedroom and is the library/reading room. But when
on the front side of the house, the one that
the
was
one that,
always like a day bed and some stuff.
Yes, that was Anna's bedroom after she got to a point where we were too old to be in that.
Sure.
Because those rooms aren't big either, And
that one especially is not big.
And my room really isn't.
Yeah.
Like if you think there's a queen or a double in it now and side tables, it's like
right.
we had
and then
two whole people in it. But so it is technically my childhood bedroom since I stayed in it, but it hasn't been my bedroom for a long time because when I studied abroad junior year, my mother took that moment because she's so sentimental about my youth and me. I returned home from Ireland all bereft. It had been an incredibly long travel day. I think there were delays. I'm reading my book at baggage claim at MCI while they walk up and then just burst into tears, and then got home and my bedroom door was closed with a sign on it that said, "Welcome home, Eva." And then when we opened the door, all of my belongings were gone. All of it. My bed was gone. Everything was off the walls. My dresser was gone.
No warning.
Brand new brass bed that was my mom's that she reclaimed from her sister. And the walls had been painted bubblegum pink. And I know you know me, and I believe that even from my tone of voice, people can tell pink is not my jam.
Right.
Like bubblegum pink with a brass bed.
So do you complete surprise when you open that?
I
resumed crying.
Immediately sobbing.
I bet.
Yeah. I was like, so I went away for 7 months and got scurvy and you replaced me.
Scurvy, oh my God.
I had scurvy.
You do. I mean,
it's an easy thing to forget, but also an easy thing not to forget. Is that
the one where the dormant chicken pox comes?
No.
The spine.
I've
Scurvy's
also
the spine.
Had that. No. Okay.
I mean,
scoliosis is a curved spine.
Okay.
That's a congenital situation. Never had it.
But you can see how scurvy with scoliosis and curved spine.
Oh, you're going to see how all of this goes together.
Okay, interesting.
I did have scabies when I had that in my first sublet in Denver. Scabies being you have 3 mama mites that live on your skin and you can't ever see them, but the bites get big and you have to put this beautiful glittery toxin on your skin. It said it was a bottle of lotion and it had a label, its warning label taped to the bottle. And then when you took it off, it accordioned open to 2.5 feet long. And I was like, oh, this is super safe medication. And I'm reading it and it was if anybody helps you apply this, because you're supposed to put it on all available skin.
Okay.
So not in your hair because it wouldn't have worked right anyway, but all over. It was if anybody helps you apply this, they should wear gloves. A pregnant woman should never touch it. You should not use this lotion twice in a calendar year because it increases the risk of seizure and death.
Oh my God.
And I was like, why would anybody want to use scabies lotion twice in a year? It's not like it's a spa treatment. And then I put it on and it was like fairy dust. And I was like, oh,
What do you
I
mean?
get it. It was beautiful. Just
Oh.
faintly shimmery all over your body.
Oh.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. I mean, I looked like an angel.
Strippery? Kinda? No?
Way too delicate.
Okay.
It was
Interesting.
like I was an ephemeral being.
So scurvy is which one?
Scabies. Then the one that's from chickenpox that lives in your spine. Chickenpox live in your spine after you've had it.
Right.
Always.
Right.
That is shingles.
Shingles. Jesus.
I got that freshman year of college because
Okay.
of stress. Although all my roommates told me it was because I already had AIDS, because people with immunocompromised situations get shingles a lot, because when your immune system is low, that's when
Do you have an immune system situation?
No,
Oh.
it was just stress.
Wow.
I have feelings.
This just in.
So, of all of the obscure S diseases, scabies and shingles we've covered, scoliosis, I didn't have. Scurvy is a pirate's lack of vitamin C.
Okay.
Scurvy.
Yeah. Not to be confused with rickets, which you can get from bad water.
And is usually a childhood disease that makes your legs go bendy and you have to wear
Forrest Gump. Something?
braces. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a childhood thing.
Wow.
Doesn't really happen anymore because of the way we treat water now.
Do you think that the sign was like, ugh, in case this doesn't go well, hopefully this softens the blow?
I mean, we didn't know I had scurvy yet because I told my mom my mouth had started acting weird, because that's what scurvy affects, is your gums.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Yes, secondary scurvy is colloquially called trench mouth because it was common in World War I in the trenches. And so my gums had been acting weird. I had never had a cavity at that time. I didn't get a cavity until I was 33.
God damn.
Yeah, girl got good teeth.
Okay. That makes one
Never
of us.
even had braces, so
Right.
they're better than Anna's.
Well, small victories.
Yes, well, they're the only kind I get.
They can relate.
Stacking them up. Okay. But my gums had been acting weird. I didn't have insurance in Ireland. So I told my mom to make an appointment. Was like, please make a dental appointment for me when I get home.
To go see Homeboy?
Dr. Russell, our across the street neighbor,
I mean,
lifelong friend, and
Best bedside manner
also
ever.
my all the time dentist.
Right.
Well, she didn't.
Oh.
She also never took our temperature when we were sick. She's just like not that kind of attentive. She was raised like, you're fine. And that was the deal. But I got home on like a Wednesday, and then Friday I'm brushing my teeth in our upstairs bathroom, which the proximity that is to my parents' room.
Right there.
She's like getting dressed. We're the only ones home. We're talking while she's dressing and I'm brushing. And because it was a Friday, she was off work, whatever. We were going to hang out. And then all of my toothpaste foam was pink. Not like a little rivulet of red when you've had an irritation. All of it was pink or red.
It matches the new wall paint.
Well, actually, the foam did. The bloodier parts
Right.
were like, had a crime been committed. And I was like, oh, gotta get this. My mom called Dr. Russell immediately and was like, there might be an urgent dental need. They said, well, we've got a cancellation today, which is a miracle. We get there, and I had like the most intense, painful cleaning ever. Took forever, hurt
Chatty
way more.
Cathy?
Yes, with the talkiest.
Blessed.
And so it turns out scurvy, which you only need to not have enough vitamin C for like 3 weeks to get scurvy, but the whole 3 weeks, not like on and off, like 3 or 4 weeks of not enough vitamin C.
How does one walk through, like, how do you deprive yourself of vitamin C?
When I lived in Ireland, it was during an economic boom there, which they have not had very many historically,
yeah.
but it was like '03, and they had a huge tourism boom, just big. They were the third most expensive country in the EU when I lived there.
Okay.
Second only behind Switzerland and England. Then it was Ireland. So everything was pricey. And everything's pricey there anyway because it's all imported. They don't
Right.
grow anything.
Right.
So all of their produce was both expensive and of poor quality. Had been come from too far, stored improperly. I don't know.
That sounds like a good way to start chipping away at vitamin C.
And I was broke, was a junior in college. So I ate like the same, I ate out there like 3 times. Like I don't remember going out to a restaurant the whole 7 months I lived in Ireland. except one time for somebody's birthday to a Mexican place of all things. But so it's like I just ate the same thing all the time. I would buy a block of cheddar, a cucumber, a lot of tuna, a loaf of bread. I'd make tuna, cheddar, cucumber sandwiches. And we made a lot of pasta, red sauce, toasts like cheese toast, rashers. It was basic, cheap stuff and not even that terrible. But not a one of those things I just named has any vitamin C in it.
Right. There you go.
And you just don't know how fast it happens. Well, and then once you have it, you can't get rid of it on your own. Like flossing, gingivitis mouthwash doesn't work. Calculus, like math, but a calcium derivative, builds up along your gum line, and only professional tools can get it off.
Oh my God.
So I had it for however long, months, without knowing I had it, but knowing there was something wrong. Because I was bleeding a little more. My gums were puffy.
Jesus.
That's why I told my mom to make an appointment. And her general, you don't have a fever, you're fine attitude. Your loose shoelaces aren't stuck in that escalator. Happened. They were. She was like, when we got there, he told me after the cleaning, which like I repeatedly had to spit blood out of my mouth during it. Like a cup full of blood. When the doctor came in after the tech left, he was like, "Are you pregnant?" And I've known this man since birth.
He led off with that
Dr.
question.
Russell's like, "Are you pregnant?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Are you sure?"
I knew you were going to say that.
And I was like, "I'm sure I'm not pregnant." It's like, there are certain things that have to happen for you to get pregnant. And no. I knew for sure. And it was super awkward to look a man in the face who I'd known since kindergarten, who lives across the street from my parents, having to for sure defend the fact that I hadn't had sex in enough time to be pregnant. And then he was like, well, because pregnancy does mess up your gums.
It sounds familiar.
It's very common. You lose a lot of your nutrients to the weird little
the halfling.
To the parasite that's actually eating all your food.
Mine.
And he was like, well, the only other option is scurvy. And I was like, cool.
Start looking it up.
Cool. And it's funny because I just told this on Christmas Eve to Billy. But
okay.
He didn't know this, obviously, because he doesn't know me.
Right.
And I said, I forgot to tell him this detail, which that's the stage 1 part. He was like, you were probably a week, maybe 2 away from stage 2 scurvy, which is the trench mouth. Which rather than being puffy and bleeding and lightly receding, your gums would start to decay and pus and turn black. I was like super glad we didn't get that far and glad that you had a cancellation.
It's the most wonderful time.
But I said, and then my prescription after the cleaning, and I said, my prescription, and Anna said, your RX.
On Christmas Eve, she busted that.
And I was like, I've been telling this story for nearly 20 years, and no one has made that joke.
Shame on me.
Shame on all of us.
Right?
Shame on me.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I thought you meant you,
no,
which I think you also should share.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could have made that joke.
Never have all of the pieces been presented so linearly. Otherwise, I'd be banging that gong, and you'd be like, "Shut up with that one."
You know my penchant for dad jokes. And my pirate one, don't you? Otherwise, you're going to.
I would love to.
What's a pirate's favorite letter?
Go
ahead and
no
answer.
A, no it's R, that whole thing.
No, just answer it. What's a pirate's favorite letter?
R.
No, it'd be the C.
Oh, that's good.
It's good because you get to laugh twice.
I know. So STP, STA, Truman State. Was Lawrence in the mix?
Yeah, I went to KU for my freshman year of college.
Straight from high school.
Yeah, that was my chosen college.
Were they dropping out of state on that, or did you have?
Oh no, there was no reciprocity anymore. We were paying out of state tuition, and it was a nightmare. And as a basic function at KU, it's like very Greek or very hippie, and I really didn't go either way enough.
I don't think you still go either.
No,
of those.
no. I'm really more of a middle of.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really fit in any boxes. Don't try to put me in a category.
Just you're A little bit of everything at the market in
That's-
your basket.
That's right. That's why I'm such a delight and so easy to get along with. Ask anyone.
Concur.
But so there was like a basic, just like maybe this isn't the right fit. Then I was an education major because, I wanted to be an English teacher for my whole life.
Right.
And education major, which there is a huge school because it's a big education school. And you were supposed to be partnered in the very first education course you take with somebody to do like a semester-long research project.
Okay. Partnered with someone
else in that class. They were supposed to assign you, and it was like an auditorium, like
huge
200-person
numbers,
class. So they assigned, my professor was supposed to assign me a human being. And it was like, in the next week or two, you will receive an email with an assignment of your partner. I never got it. And I, in fairness, didn't follow up. I let that slide. But also, why didn't I get one?
Right.
Like, the system was so broken. So between the fact that I was already behind in my major, it was maybe not a great cultural fit. And then, my roommate tried to kill herself. She drank that bottle of Drano. Didn't work. She was alive anyway at some point. But anyway.
Previously a stranger.
Yeah, she was actually my third roommate. My first roommate got assigned, but we were assigned to the oldest, crappiest dorm, McCullen. So she bailed on me before we moved.
Okay.
And because she bailed so close to the semester start, though, I was then assigned a foreign exchange student named Ha. She didn't speak almost any English. She had a lot of stuffed animals. A lot.
I can see it.
At the risk of being racist, because this, I guess, is, but it was also just truth in the room. She cooked she had a very strong smell that was probably just food related. It was not pleasant.
I think in those types, the foods and the pores
it happens.
Get together and they're like, we're cohabitating.
And it was just, it probably wasn't stinky to people who share that culture, but for me it was a challenge, especially given that doesn't speak English and I didn't like the way she inhabited our room with all the many stuffed animals. And then she started partying really hard.
Oh.
And she was regularly puking into the trash can at the end of the hall, which was right outside our door, which was the last room on the hall. So I conspired with the girl who lives next to me for us to swap back.
Also first room.
First room from the stairwell.
Also 3 roommates within the first year.
Oh, you had a suite. Oh, my God.
I had
3 roommates in the first.
Yeah.
Did your third one drink a bottle of Drano?
No, but I did have
weird.
I did have nice chunks of no roommate in between all
I didn't.
of the comings.
This all happened right away. Well, because I had befriended the girl who lived next door, and she lived with a full-time dorm dweller. That girl was a junior who had stayed in the dorms all 3 years in the same room. So let's just say she was a little bit of an odd duck.
Putting it lightly and nicely.
That girl and I approached our respective roommates and said, how would you feel if we swap roommates? And Alex moves in with me and Ha moves in with the permanent dormer. They didn't care because they weren't close with us. We got official permission, the whole thing. Alex moved in with me. It was like the halfway into like the third month of first semester, like not that long, 8 weeks.
November-ish, October-ish.
October, probably.
Yeah.
And immediately she got dumped by her boyfriend in Topeka, and she quit going to class. And you could still smoke on our dorm floor then. So I was coming home from class. She wouldn't have left all day. She would just be in her bottom bunk, all in the dark, chain smoking cigarettes and watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Shut up.
No, I'm not joking.
I believed you up until that last detail.
It was so uncomfortable that I was like never there. And then one day I came back trying to get in my room, and they'd shut down the whole building. They'd evacuated our floor. They weren't letting anyone up. And I was like, that's my.
I live there.
I was like, and then it was very easy to put it together that was my room. So they let me go up to the floor, but they'd evacuated it's a Y-shaped dorm. So our branch, they'd made everybody leave, and they weren't letting us sit in the student lounge that was at the center of that Y.
Interesting.
So everybody had either gone to other floors outside or down the boys' hall or the other girls' hall. And I just remember walking down one and sitting down and like sobbing because I have a lot of trauma around death by suicide.
64th Terrace, right? I mean,
Yep.
like somebody,
Yep.
a close
Very
somebody.
close.
Yeah.
Very close when we were 15. And then a number of other people who weren't that close in high school. There was
No
like,
shit.
yeah, somebody in Anna's class killed herself. Somebody,
Okay.
then Claire did in our class. Somebody did the year behind me.
Jesus Christ.
A boy that I knew at Rockhurst, his mom killed herself while we were in high school. My friend Catherine, her brother killed herself when we were in high school. It was a lot. So,
God damn, dude.
yeah. It was, I mean, this is all so long ago. I don't mean to
Sure,
be cavalier.
no.
But, so when this happened, I mean, I was the definition of re-traumatized. You know, like this is only my freshman year. It's not that far away from
Well, you're away from home for the first
and
time.
I mean, it's 45 minutes away, but
Still.
yeah. Well, all of that added up to I didn't stay.
Yeah.
It was expensive.
Yeah.
My whole experience had been bad.
So Truman State. And then
after that.
8108 Mercer was supposed to be the home for you and your sister to live in. But
I
then
mean, maybe. I don't think I was. It was
that
like.
was the
The way I was pitched, it was like, we have it, and Anna can live there now, and then maybe you can live there. It was just going to be like a floater.
I remember being told or understanding in one way or another that you both can pursue the next stages and still be in town but not be at home. And then Wyoming for mechanic school for...
Yeah. I got my first master's at Truman, 5th year.
That's right. Okay.
So I was there
okay.
for 4 full years after the freshman year at KU.
The episode that dropped last Thursday, I drop on
Mm-hmm.
Thursdays, was Mark McCaffrey.
Oh, who knows? The man
And
I
he
moved
goes,
to Wyoming
and
with.
he came up because he's in a couple outfits.
Bands?
And I asked about back fat, and he
I
goes,
forgot that was the name of that
he
band.
goes-
It's still great.
he goes, you mean Silent Paul? And I was
Oh my
like,
God.
do people call him that? And he goes, do people not?
I mean, I never called him that, but it is
Right.
appropriate.
Yeah.
And that's also funny because on Christmas dinner, somehow your wedding came up because
Oh, wow.
we were talking about.
Oh, was he your plus?
He was. We lived together. We were going to. The reason we broke up is because I decided he was not my marriage partner, and it was definitely that's
Right.
the track we were
But
on.
you went to like Cheyenne.
We lived in Laramie for a year.
Laramie.
And that's
And
really
he did a program.
and that's
then
really where it became clear. It was like he was such a good boyfriend. He's a
you
good
guys adopted
dude.
a dog. Yeah, he is.
He surprised me with a dog on my last day of student teaching because he's adorable.
Yeah.
mean,
If I was into dudes, I'd be like,
He's a very handsome
Yeah.
guy. He's very sweet. It felt like he was not quite enough, which is more a me thing. You know, I mean, I'm a lot.
Of course.
My mom put it one way. She's like, you're going to outgrow him. And I think that I started to see that.
See her saying that.
And I didn't want him to ever feel like he had to be somebody other than
Sure.
exactly who he was.
Yeah.
It was a very horrible, mature thing to break up with him. You know, like it was like, I can see that he's not going to be enough for me. And I never want him to not be enough.
And then Denver
Mm-hmm.
and like Laura Stanley and 303 and the RAV4.
And my terrible boyfriend there who had like a double life.
Andrew with the
Yes.
the bird thing used to hang inside the front door here.
Yes. Andrew, the artist.
And I gave it to. Does she have
and
it up?
the compulsive liar and
I totally forgot about that part.
and so much weird manipulation and gaslighting, which I wouldn't have had the word gaslighting for it at that time.
No.
But for sure, that's what it was.
Well,
I usually ended up apologizing after I caught him out with her or emailing her or leaving his email open on my computer with their G chats up.
That's
Like
right.
it was, and the weird, I would end up apologizing.
now, you and I don't look through the same lens when we're looking out for partners in the world. But to me, he was not the cutest. And so when
no, he's not like a traditionally handsome
so
man.
when all
And
that
he's small.
when all that stuff came out, I was like, you don't get to look like that and do all those things. What are you doing?
No, but he was like cool in a way that I hadn't had access to yet. I think that was
hipster,
Yeah.
kind of cool.
and things that I've like now like Drew one was sort of the
Oh
balance
my
of
god,
that.
I forgot about that
Because
too.
he was cool, but also not cool. He was actually an excellent match for me. It didn't work out for a number of reasons,
Right.
but like when I look back, I'm like, that was the one that made the most sense. It's sad that it crumbled the way it did.
Sure.
I mean, he might not feel sad about it, but
But after a good little chunk and some
I was in Denver for 3 years.
3 years, yeah, and like made some friends and had like a
Oh,
lot
I
of
thought I would
stuff
never leave.
happening.
It felt very much like my a good fit as far as home.
And then all of a sudden, Anna and I are buying the car because you're moving to New York.
Well, because I applied to NYU.
That's right.
But I only applied to NYU. I had started working at the magazine in Denver, and after I decided not to teach, so I was like, oh,
you did a semester in Raytown, right?
Yeah, Raytown
With
South.
some interesting
which is a
theme papers
which
written.
is a very mixed school, meaning mixed income, mixed race.
Yep.
It was like 40% white, 40% black, 20% Asian, and Latin Hispanic.
I feel like I have this memory of you getting papers written
10 and 10. I did the math wrong there, but
and being like, I can't believe they're writing papers about this topic or
there
something.
were things. The breadth of education level for people who were in the same class was also all over the place.
Okay.
Like people who could barely write better than a third grader. And I mean that earnestly.
And they just like literally.
And I taught sophomore, juniors, and seniors, so all of those people should have been performing better than a third grader. I didn't teach any remedial courses. I taught advanced senior.
And somehow they've made it.
Public schools are just not great. They're not. And so I had kids that accused me of being racist. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. That I had a supervisory teacher, and there was one girl, she sat in the front row, and she was just a jerk. I mean, it did not matter what color her skin was. She was an asshole in all races.
Sure.
Like, she was a jerk. She talked constantly. She only slouched down with her arms crossed, scowling. She didn't participate, and she talked back a lot. Like, just, this is an asshole kid. That's all.
Right.
And I wasn't very good at discipline. My supervising teacher had to step in a lot. She got written up a lot because she behaved very badly.
Yeah.
And her mother came to the administration and said it was because I was white and so was my supervising teacher, and that we were persecuting her because she was black. It's like half this classroom is black, and we're not picking on them all. We just pick on the assholes. like, nope, this math doesn't even add up. But the answer to that was that she was going to come observe a class. So her mother came and sat in the back of my classroom to make sure, to see that it was me.
I can't believe administration
I can't believe
that.
I was like, do you honestly think your child is going to behave the same with you
Right.
sitting in the, like, where's the logic here?
Ain't
But
none.
that's the problem. The administration was so checked out. That is one of the problems with public schooling, especially, well, maybe not all public schools, but Kansas City's are not great. Or they weren't then. Some of them were disaccredited then, meaning
Some of them still are.
yeah, it's not an ideal scenario.
Right.
But it's like, who's in charge of telling a parent? It's like you're observing from the back row is not a proper observation. If we involve
Hidden camera, maybe.
that's exactly what it was about. Nanny cam this shit.
Yeah.
And you can watch what a jerk your kid
Right.
is. Like, obviously her mom had the authority under control because she did behave when her mom was in the room.
But 8-ish years in New York, right?
No. So after the public school, Denver for 3 years, applied to NYU on a whim.
Right.
Because it was like $100 application fee, and my GRE scores from my first master's were still good. So I was like, literally, I just have to fill out a handful of paperwork and pay $100. And my parents were like, don't go back to school for more school. You've already been to so much school. I'd already done that. When I lived in Wyoming, I did that 1 month intensive, all day, every day publishing certification program at University of Denver.
I didn't retain that.
But I did.
Okay.
So it's like I've had a master's degree and then post-grad work in publishing. But that's how I got to being like, I want to be in magazines or writing.
Yeah.
Which is very different than being a high school English teacher. But it's still all based on wanting to be a writer and a reader.
Yeah.
And same kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'll just apply to this one school. It's an excellent journalism school, especially for magazine writing. And if I get in, we can cross that bridge. And if I don't, wasn't meant to be. It's one application in the wind. Well, I got in, and that was right at the breaking point of that toxic relationship. So I just went. It was like, I got to get out of here. I couldn't get away from him. No matter what I did, I couldn't stop taking him back and
Shit.
apologizing. So I bailed. Had a nervous breakdown the first semester in New York, like a full one.
Really?
Yeah. Anna, it's the only time Anna was on the phone with me and she was like, are you someplace safe? Are you okay? Because I was like, I'm just hopeless. And I didn't actually feel like I wanted to harm myself. That there's a big difference.
But it was all too much.
But saying that I felt hopeless and I actually did not understand how things could ever, I was like, I feel placeless, hopeless. I have no home.
Did you have a tiny place?
The world's tiniest, crappiest bedroom in a very sad apartment.
And did your dad come stay there for like a weekend or to move you in or something?
He moved me there the weekend. He moved me in. I moved there with just 2 suitcases.
Okay.
So we flew into New York and stayed one night in a financial district hotel room the size of a postage stamp with 2 twin beds, with me having 2 full-size suitcases. And we told the girls I was moving in with we'd be there Sunday by 11 a.m. We woke them both up because they'd gone out partying the night before, and one of them answered in like her sleeping tank top and panties. And it's just me and my dad in like the grossly overlit hallway, like, hey. But that actually worked out. I lived with those girls for years.
I mean, if your dad didn't break into a little Annie, I think I'm gonna like it here.
Oh, I definitely think that was not his vibe. It was more like,
I'm kidding.
Oh my God, maybe you're moving it into an actual den of iniquity.
Right.
It wasn't that bad. And I'm still friends with one of those girls,
Okay.
like fully.
Okay.
But I lived in New York for 12 years.
12?
11 and a half. But I'm going to go ahead and round up because it was a
yeah,
lot.
Yeah. Refill. I got to pee again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So 12 years, we came for a quick visit, and I remember.
Oh, for the fish shows.
Yeah. For the Baker's Dozen, which you went to
one.
the last one, right? And
I did with my friend Max from Denver, who's a crazy fish head and does a lot of traveling for their shows.
Kind of quasi enjoyed it, right?
I mean,
the experience, right?
I mean, I'm not a huge fish fan, but I'm not an anti-fish.
Right.
Also, I'm just generally a yes person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm pro doing things.
Sure.
Like it would have to be something that I can't actually. If you asked me to go to the Republican National Convention, I will say, actually, I don't know. Such a social experiment.
You might get a good piece of journalism out of that.
Exactly. So I can't, but I'd have to feel some strong way to say no to things because I think you can make fun, have a good time, make your own fun at anything.
Well, I remember vaguely, like.
I did do my first nitrous balloon there.
Oh, nice.
Actually, on the street, sitting on a curb outside
yeah,
MSG.
That's the, yeah. But I remember,
that
like.
was my only nitrous balloon.
At one point, we actually went to your place, and you had a female roommate that was cool, that you were like kind of developing a friendship with, and we hung out for a second. But there was also like the person whose name was maybe on the lease, and you guys were like not really into it anymore, but nobody, everybody was.
So that was a 4-bedroom apartment, that one. And when we moved into it, it was me and Laura from Denver. She followed me to New York.
LJS?
Yes. She still lives there. But she moved there 2 years after I did.
Guys?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, all the time. Talked to her. I stayed with her when I was in New York in September.
Okay.
Yeah. A lifelong friend, that one. And she's super close with Carrie, who is another one of our roommates.
Okay.
And then when we moved in, it was also Cassie. Cassie left first and maintained the least friendship with us long term. She and Laura never totally vibed anyway. So there was that. She wasn't going to be keeping up with Laura long term. And she moved to San Francisco and just like, it was kind of like, that's that. She came back a couple times we saw her, but over the decade or so since then, I still follow her on Instagram.
There wasn't a dude?
So there was a lot of turnover.
Okay.
Me and Laura were on the lease though, and Carrie was on the lease, and then Carrie left next. Our friend Kia moved in briefly because she broke up with the man she lived with. She only stayed there for like 3 months. Our friend Danny lived there for a couple of years. And then a girl with bipolar moved in. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm.
We didn't know she had bipolar until she quit taking her meds.
Oh, boy.
And had a major psychotic break. Like major. She was taking pictures from Laura's bedroom. Like she put them on her Instagram. The perspective was she was clearly laying in Laura's bed.
No.
And the captions were like, look at my beautiful place. And she was stealing Danny's girlfriend's panties out of his bedroom.
What?
And when she had the full, we didn't know this, right? And I mean, we saw it on Instagram, but this all happened like within 48 hours because she had a break. We came home one day and she had her door shut and she was alternating, like muttering to herself in there. You could hear it, but not understand it, and screaming. Like yelling. We could hear glass shattering. I was the only one home, by the way.
Oh, sweet.
So when I say we, I do mean just me. And I'm texting my roommates. I'm on the phone with my mom. Oh, God, no, it was worse. My mom was there visiting. She was standing in the kitchen with me. This memory is like coming back in pieces. She's lightly tearing because it's scary and upsetting.
100%.
We don't know any of her friends. We didn't know her family. We really didn't know what to do. And I'm like walking to Laura's bedroom to call Danny and Laura alternately and be like, what do I do? All the consensus was call the police.
What else?
So we called the police. They came. It was all kinds of nuts. Her bedroom door was right across the hall, right across a narrow walkway from our front door. So when the police opened it, they were like right at her door. And she was dancing and yelling and talking, and the policewoman was like trying to talk her down and ask her questions. And then she asked for a glass of water. Our roommate did. And when we gave it to her, she sat down on the floor and poured it on her face and chest, which was weird. Or she didn't sit down on the floor. She was acting up and did all this. And the policewoman said, "Oh, it's not going that way, little girl." And then just put her hand on her shoulder and like pushed her to the floor. Just like a button. Like she didn't shove her. She just sat that woman down. My crazy roommate. They had to take her in. We couldn't find her wallet, so she went to the hospital.
ID-less?
Yes.
Wow.
No phone, no ID, nothing, because we didn't know where anything was.
Right.
And we actually went back in her room.
Check Laura's room.
While she's in the ambulance. My mother and I go into this crazy woman's room, and there were pairs of underwear everywhere. That's what I mean. So it was like, why are there were underwear everywhere? Just an odd number of underwear. And it turns out that's because she was taking it from my roommate's girlfriend. But we couldn't find anything, so they just take her. Mm-hmm. They take her to the worst place you want to go in all of New York. Like, you do not want to go to this hospital. If you saw it, you wouldn't want to go there. It's known for where you don't want to go if you're for mental health stuff. They released her at like 2 a.m. Knocks on the door. I'm still the only one home. I open the door. It's pouring out, so she's soaking wet. She took a taxi there. I have no idea how she got there. I don't know how she got the taxi. I don't know how she paid for the taxi. I felt all kinds of ways. And I hugged her and was like, "I'm so sorry I called the police on you." Like, there was an amount of guilt.
Yeah.
And then she hugged me and said, "No, it's okay. It's what I needed." And then she went in her bedroom, and I went into my bedroom, which was downstairs in that like basement now. So under her bedroom.
Okay.
Well, I woke up the next morning at like 7 a.m. and she was sitting in the hall, writing on the walls in permanent marker. Lots of things that didn't make sense. She had tacked a scarf along the base and lit candles. She'd pinned flowers to the wall in the hall. She'd ripped out celebrities' faces from a calendar.
Good grief.
And yeah, I mean, a psychotic break, a manic episode like that, it's real. I finally got on Facebook and got a hold of her mother.
Oh, wow.
Like clicked through her Facebook because I was her Facebook friend. Got her mother's, but her parents lived in Puerto Rico. They got in touch with one friend who came and took her back to the hospital where she had to stay for 3 weeks.
Damn.
That's how long it took to get her back on meds and like rebalanced. But in that time, we had to send her like the worst text message. It was like, "We really understand that this is out of your control, and like we have empathy about your situation. We don't want to punish you, but you can't live here." Everybody had felt violated and didn't feel safe anymore. You know, like
that's what, because I thought there was a dude.
Danny's the only dude that ever lived there.
Okay. I don't remember any of this.
And he was great.
Sure.
And then I left. After that, I was
I remember sitting on the roof with that gal, roommate, who I
Carrie maybe or Cassie.
Asian-ish looking? No.
Blonde Asian? We never had an Asian.
No. Well, I just remember like you guys hadn't seen each other for a minute, but you both were like, there's an element of this roommate scenario that
Jenny was Hispanic, so I mean, she might have looked a little
okay.
Asian.
Anyway, I just remember being like, you guys are just walking around with game face on where you live.
Oh
all
yeah,
the time.
That had to be her because there was nobody else that was that bad.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
And then and now Florida. But did you like
Florida.
go to Spain or something? Were you in another country for a minute, like before the move, or shortly after the
I go
move?
to Spain like every 3 years.
Do you really?
Well, after Drew one broke up with me, and we'd had that elaborate Hawaii trip planned, like booked, and we could only get like half the money back for everything, and so in combination with like the trauma of the breakup and having to move out of our shared apartment.
Was this the relationship that ended with like there was a guy's weekend or a girl's weekend, and then
No, that's Darren. That was the most recent one.
Okay.
I went on a girls' trip for 48 hours and he moved out while I was gone.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, Darren's a psycho. We don't miss him.
Okay.
He was very pretty though.
Okay.
Like real pretty.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
No, Drew one. You know Drew one. He came home all the time. We were going to get married. We were together for 3 years.
Yeah.
Beard,
Yes.
glasses.
Dark hair. Yeah.
Tattoos.
Nice. Friendly. Like.
Yes, he's the only one
conversationalist.
he's the only one I look back other than Silent Paul.
Right.
But Silent Paul I just look back on fondly.
Silent vowel.
Still
last
shouldn't.
name Paul.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, we used to want to name. We used to joke we would name our baby girl because it had to be a girl for these names. First name Blue, middle name Barry, or because of his last name, which we won't say here.
Right.
Or just
Well,
first name Maple.
Nice. Nice.
No, Drew one was like the person I thought would be my life partner, and then he kind of decided he didn't want to marry me.
He had a
and sabotaged
kiddo? No.
Darren.
Sorry.
That's still Darren.
Okay.
No, Drew one was
He sabotaged what?
Well, you know, it's like we got really serious, and his parents were like asking us when the wedding was going to be. We talked about getting married. We weren't engaged, but it was really serious.
Okay.
I think he just kind of realized he didn't want to get married, and then rather than break up with me, he behaved really badly for like 4 or 5 months.
Like not coming home?
Yes.
Okay.
And
a lot of it was very upsetting.
yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then I'm acting crazy because he's acting shitty. So it wasn't like he was the only one that acted badly.
Right.
I'm not going to go there. But he was too chicken to just recognize he just didn't want to be with me.
Right.
Which is actually fair. Like I don't like you don't have to want to marry me.
Right.
But rather than do the hard thing, he blew it up from the inside out, which was super messy and traumatic.
It's one approach.
It's a common approach, turns out.
Okay.
But yeah, so I was so traumatized by the actual breakup and was like, and I feel like I felt the loss of a lot of things, you know, like future plans, and
Sure.
I didn't have a place to live, and we'd had this huge vacation planned. I've never been to Hawaii and I wanted to go. Well, Mama and Papa then gave me some of my wedding fund. You know, they had like a tiny bit of money, not that much money even. Your guys' wedding cost way more than our wedding
I thought
fund.
they had the same amount.
They had the same amount for me and Anna, and your wedding way superseded it.
So they dipped into yours?
No, but I still have not been married. So when I broke up with him and was traumatized, they were like, and I didn't have money to go on a trip. My parents were like, why don't you it's like, it's your money. It's a wedding fund, but it's your money. And since I thought I would marry Drew and then we didn't, it felt sort of apropos
Okay.
to use some. So they just gave me, I was like, yeah. And if I get married at this point, the older and older I get, the way less of a to do it's going to.
We can stop by the courthouse.
Yeah, no joke. But I was kind of that
Put
way
it on
anyway.
the
Your
gram.
guys' wedding was so big and grand that after that I was like, well, this is not what I'm going to do.
I mean,
like, I want to look super hot.
You wanted to go to Ireland, right? Didn't you?
Oh, no, I mean, well, sure. I'm sure I entertained that at one point. I'm obsessed with Ireland. You know how I feel.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm like, I don't care. Drew and I were planning to get married on a parked barge.
I mean, there's some appeal to that.
It was a big flat thing on the water. I was like, put up some bistro lights, throw down a couple of tables, get good music, good food, good booze. We had a wedding guest list planned of 40 people. I was like, I was going to wear light gold, like a lame, and he was going to wear.
You keep saying that word like I fucking know what it is.
You do
From
know what it is if I showed you a picture.
Musical last night, there was somebody wearing it.
It is shiny fabric.
Okay.
Metallic.
All right. Yeah, I can
You would
picture it.
totally know what it is. leotards from the 80s, dresses from the 80s, Dynasty, all of it.
Yes. Now now I got it.
But I wasn't necessarily going to be in lame, but like a pale gold. And he was going to wear a chambray suit. Because at his first wedding, he got married in seersucker. Just imagine how that went. You're surprised you get divorced if you get married in seersucker. That's just saying. So I took some of that money and I went to Europe by myself.
That's what.
And I went to Reykjavik, Berlin, and then Barcelona.
What's the first place?
Reykjavik.
Is that Iceland?
Iceland, yeah.
But that's not Europe, right? It's not.
It is.
Nuh-uh. It's not way up here. Greenland and Iceland.
Greenland and Iceland are not the same place.
I know that part.
Actually, Greenland's farther away, and much icier. Do you remember that from the Mighty Ducks when they go to the Junior Olympics and the Iceland woman coach is super hot and she says to their coach, she's like, Greenland is very cold and Iceland is very nice. Something very close.
No, I definitely remember learning later after there are places called Greenland that Greenland's the further and the colder in Iceland. But anyway,
do you know why that's
I didn't know
true?
that was part of Europe.
I just found that out. I only just found this out, that the people who discovered Iceland and Greenland, the whatever
Vikings,
Danes, Vikings, whomever, purposely named Iceland and Greenland, even though those were flipped misnomers because they didn't want people to go to Iceland.
Smart.
Yeah. Especially for primitive folk.
Yeah.
But so I went to Barcelona. It was my last stop on that trip, and I went on a Tinder date on my last night there.
Oh boy.
Because
it'll recognize.
You just pick where you are. Yeah. Went on a Tinder date. We went to a real nice dinner. We went to a bar afterward. We made out on a street corner. And I was like, my flight's at like 7:30 in the morning. Like, I'm out. And thank you for a lovely date. Mm-hmm. I was just like interested in like company. I've been on a trip by myself. Yeah. He was really nice. He still is really nice. But like a year later, he came to New York for business. He's a French Canadian guy who lives in Barcelona.
Okay.
So, and he would like be in Montreal, see his mom, etc. So he was in New York, and for one night only. And I was like, well, I have plans at 10 o'clock that Thursday, which I did. It was a date. I was like, but I can meet you for happy hour. So I did. I basically went on a happy hour date and then another date.
Wow.
That was the date with Zach Orth, the famous actor that I dated.
Zach Orth.
He's been in Wet Hot American Summer and a bit. You would recognize his face.
Sure.
People did while we were out together. He was in a Broadway play while we were dating.
Oh, nice.
He's really nice. But anyway, so we had cocktails like a year and a half after our one date. And about a year after that, he was like, come here and visit. And I was like, I don't have any money to spend on a trip to Barcelona. And he was like, so if I pay for your flight and let you stay at my place,
oh man,
you want to come? And I was like, well, duh. I told my mom and I was like, who am I to say no to just like a paid for trip to Barcelona? He made up his guest bedroom. There were like no presumptions.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't use the guest bedroom. I stayed with him.
Sure. But that's a nice gesture. And
we had a lovely time. Like, it's nice to be in another country or a foreign city with someone who lives it like a local. You do all different things.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, so we went for fabulous food and to the topless beach and beautiful wine and all the art.
Nice.
Walked around, had a great time. I went home. And then last year, 2021, he invited me back. So that was like 2 years after the first one. So like every 2 years we go on a date, 2 of which have been in Barcelona that he pays for. Which is one of my favorite stories to tell people because I'm like, I guess somebody got that good.
Right? Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay.
He's a sweet man.
So, but your gig is copywriting, right?
Copy editing.
I
mean, I've done a little copywriting, but very little.
To me, copy editing is like editing copy that's been written.
That's correct.
To adjust to whatever thing it didn't land on right away.
Copy editing is really strictly grammar, syntax, punctuation, etc.
Right.
In advertising where I work now, that also means sometimes brand specific choices or tone of voice. You can be like, does this sound like like what they want? higher level editing, which some people think of as copy editing, but it really isn't the right use of the word, is like line editing. And that's more like just the larger phrase editor.
Right.
I've done that too.
Okay. What is copy? Is copywriting like code and?
No, copywriting just means writing all those words that I'm editing or fixing.
Okay.
It's like the people that write the scripts for commercials.
Sure.
Or the copy that goes on labels or taglines, jingles. All of that is copywriting.
Interesting that I'm sure at one point all those things were
Website
just called
content.
writing.
All website content, that's copy.
And now we put copy in front of it.
Yeah, well, because we put words in front of most of writing if it's going to be a profession. There's
Screen.
technical,
Yeah.
like Grant.
Yep.
They're, like
Yep.
we really have, they've become
Sure.
very...
That's fair.
And it's distinct subcategories for a reason. It's so that you can put an ad out there for someone that you want to do the job, and it actually is that a person who can do that.
Right.
Not just someone who's like, I can write.
But the gig that you have now, you were in New York when you got it, and it just
Correct.
now, and then you were
When Darren, the kid that we don't miss, who was very pretty, who had a child, and moved out in 40 hours while I was upstate.
and the child was like
She was very attached to me.
Oh, but didn't she have like a phone at a young age? And a
Oh,
bunch
she
of
had
other,
so many things.
the mom was maybe doing some.
Yeah, her mom's a lunatic, and Darren wasn't that great either. Yeah, she had a temper tantrum in the Duane Reade because she couldn't buy toys, and her mother's solution was to give her her own debit card at 5. And she left her signed in to Target and Amazon.com and Wish.com, left it signed in on her own it was a laptop provided by school because it was during COVID. So it was the 6-year-old's laptop. Left her signed in and just let her shop.
And she had multiple purchases?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Fed her only like donuts and junk because she refused to eat anything else, which we tried to feed her better things and she would not eat. She would just choose to not eat. She's like Medeski. She'd go days without eating with us because she wouldn't eat cheesy red sauce pasta, which she loved, if she could see oregano in the sauce. It's like, this isn't a vegetable, girl.
Right.
Just get over it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She was a mess. That whole
But the gig, you had the gig, and then all of a sudden the gig said you have to go one of two places?
I had a gig. I got laid off early in COVID.
Okay.
And then I got a gig I hated while I lived with this problematic man and this problematic child. And I hated it. And so when we broke up and I was living in really dirty sublets with dudes, like I didn't ever once use a fork or a glass in that. I lived with them for 2 months and I'd never once used dish or flatware in that house. It was so filthy. Yikes. I showered in flip-flops every time I showered, and I brought my toothbrush into my bedroom with me every single night because it was real grim in there.
I mean,
it was a real sad situation. Those dudes were super nice, and one of them was a friend of mine, and he gave it to me for like $700 a month, which in New York is bonkers. So it was the right fit for the moment, but I was obviously very unhappy. Yeah. And I hated my job. I was having a lot of friendship problems. My relationship had just gone up in flames, and he like got a restraining order on me because I slammed that door.
But new gig, right?
So I pursued this new gig. I had freelanced for them before, and they had to quit freelancing with me because when they became a formal subsidiary of their parent company, they had to change like tax laws, so they could no longer freelance with people outside of a certain set of states. And I was like, did you fill this position? I'm looking for work. Like, I need a change. I called them the week I was here in Kansas City after the breakup. I came home, get some love, feel safe, stable, and was like, also, I hate my job. I don't have a place to live. My friends kind of suck or have all moved away. New York is crazy expensive. I've been there for over a decade. Maybe this is the time for a change. I hit them up and she was like, actually, we're developing it into a new role and maybe you're the perfect fit. And I had one more phone interview and then it was my job.
Damn.
But it did come with the requirement I had to live in Florida or Georgia.
And have you, since the move, have you found yourself being like, I understand why?
Why what? That was just tax laws. I had to be in a place where they had an office. They have their primary office is in Atlanta, and they have a small.
So it's a dumb little, like, you could technically live, in theory, you could
It is
live.
for their payroll taxes. I had to live in a payroll state.
Gotcha.
So yes, it is a dumb little
Bummer.
fill in the blank. Although maybe not a bummer. Like maybe it was the time for me to leave New York.
I mean, right. And
Florida's not perfect, for sure.
Right.
But
for what it's worth, I mean, there's definitely, an air about, New York's the best city in the world, and if you can get there and keep yourself there, there's sort of there's a little bit of ego in that.
They consider New Yorkers, if it's like 50-50 if you ask them, if you make it 7 years, or half the people will say 7 and half the people will say 10 is when you're a real New Yorker.
Well, but I mean, like, there's some ego in being able to get there and stay there.
I mean, I didn't feel that way because, I didn't really want to go. It wasn't like I sat around wanting to live in New York. A lot of people are like, what I want to do is be in New York. New York's the only place to be.
Sure.
For me, it was kind of a roll of the dice. I was not trying to leave
Right,
Denver.
right.
So it was different. And then it was like once I was there, I just never had any reason or interest in leaving.
Right.
It was more like I'm here.
Right.
And
not floundering.
Not floundering. And once I was in publishing, writing, advertising, those are all jobs that really only happen in like 3 cities in the whole country.
Tori.
Oh my God.
I remember being like, just because we
she's a handful and a character.
Yes. Well, we were out before it was dark one of the days that we were there, and there were drinks at a place, and I just remember casually overhearing like some conversation about jobs and pay rates and opportunities and interviews, and there were a couple like, not directly quoting, but there were a couple of moments where it was like, oh, honey, kind of like, I'm above living at that pay rate or in those, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And like being like, and you weren't, like, it seemed like it felt familiar to you, not necessarily her, but just this whole.
Well, she also has 2 master's degrees and is very smart.
Yes.
And very well educated. She does not have the same. She doesn't have the same people skills. Like she's very chatty and friendly and like makes friends, but she doesn't like work well in like a full office setting. She just doesn't vibe with groups. She would say the same of herself.
Sure. And I'm not trying to like single her out, but that whole air of like, this is who I am, and this is New York, and this is how we roll.
I was regularly getting paid like way less than I should have been getting paid.
That sucks.
But I think I'm getting less than I should be getting paid right now. And she was definitely, and I don't just mean her, but she was a good example of somebody who felt more comfortable. Laura does it too. I do have a type when it comes to my women, and it's smart and big personalities. Mm-hmm. Both of them are more self-assured and assertive than me.
Okay.
Like I am gregarious and confident in some way.
Sure. Yeah.
But not that. Like I will take the low. Like I get very shy and weird and sheepish about like pushing for things that probably I should, and that applies in my personal life. Like I will just.
You're getting a lot of self-awareness points tonight. Let me just, in case nobody tells you that before you go to bed. Kudos.
So it's like she'd be like, "You should be demanding this, or you should do this. You should try these other things," and it didn't feel possible. Or
I remember we went out to dinner and like podcast. Well, first of all, like whenever we.
Oh yeah, we were such hardcore podcasters. I mean, Laura makes podcasts and like edits podcast lists.
Nice. When we got together, I remember it was like again, not quoting, but you're like, so. Here's the plan. Here's the rundown for tonight. So-and-so's having a thing at like 10. So we'll probably get there at like 11:15. And then we'll go to this one place and then blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I mean, okay, yeah. Well, just tell us where to be. And then, like, the first place we went, like, people are like scuttling back and forth between bathrooms and anterooms and handing off little. And I was like, what?
You're like, oh, is that how people stay awake?
How come everybody keeps going to the bathroom? And Anna's like, I'm like, did you go to the bathroom too? And she's like, I'm like, does everybody know but me?
I mean, you went to college, right?
Well, anyway, just a lot of. Like,
although I didn't have any idea when that was happening in college, I had never done a drug ever.
I worked at McCoy's for like 4 years before I knew that St. Patrick's Day meant that March 10th we're all going to start getting ready, and then
I didn't know that. I don't know that now.
And like the way that it came like online was I came in at 7 for an opening shift, and like Anna and a bunch of other people were still there from the night before and just oh, like the sun coming up didn't clue you in that you should wrap this up. And
well, I mean, you're young.
yeah, but anyway,
when you just said that, like you said that I said somebody's having a thing at 10, so we'll get there 11:15. I was like, that's making me tired. Just hearing you say that. I was like, really? That came out of my mouth?
well, again, paraphrasing. Who knows what kind of
but
liberties I'm
just
taking.
like, oh, Jesus.
But we did go out for a nice meal to one place, and like there was all this podcast chatter, and I was like, what do you guys? And Laura was like, phone. And I was like, and
I love it that she did that, because that had to be before she was editing lists of podcasts for the Atlantic.
Like, I didn't look then. I thank you very much, and I put it away. And then later, I was like, she signed me up for like 15 weekly podcasts. How
she has
is anybody?
Taste in it too. Well, and
no, they were all fantastic. But
she's
how?
So bossy too. Which, I mean, again, I have a type, and Anna. I mean, Anna's mom is the oldest of her whole siblings. Anna's an older sister. Right. All of my friends are big, bossy, assertive women.
Sure.
Like, I clearly go for being bossed around. Mm-hmm. When Laura and I first became friends, and she was editor-in-chief, and my interview for being an unpaid intern there was actually just like 2 hours of us talking. It was like a really good first date.
Sure.
And then I didn't get that job, but she made up.
I'm going to call you in 18 months and we'll go to Barcelona.
Oh, man. Hashtag worth it.
Right.
And I mean for him.
Right. Oh, okay. Eva's here.
But I just remember she usually gave the restaurant reviews to herself. Like, you know, we did food, art. Mm-hmm. Like, it was a lifestyle glossy.
Yes.
You know? And she mostly did the restaurant reviews herself because it's a dope deal. When she couldn't do it, she like passed them out evenly amongst other people.
That's cool.
But also when she went, she usually got to bring one person. So she would kind of keep that varied. So people got to go with, I got to go with her to several.
Sure.
And it was so fun. And this is still as her friend, this is maintained true for the 15 years of us knowing each other, that she will order for the table. And I'm a non-picky and basically adventurous eater. And I say basically adventurous because it's like there are things.
Yeah.
There is a bridge too far.
Yeah.
But I will.
Don't order me the Republican National Convention. I don't want to.
I mean, maybe.
Unless there's an opportunity.
I mean, if I eat it, does it go away forever?
Nope. It's corn.
Gross. Awesome. Gross.
Have you seen that cartoon with the like 4 or 5 vegetable buddies that are about to go on the roller coaster ride, and at the end, like the carrot and the squash, and they're all just like heroin, and corn's like again.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my God, but I do like people to take charge.
Sure.
And it's not because I'm indecisive.
No, there's something appealing about
because
that.
I am decisive. Like if I'm in a group of people and it's like the decision is floundering, my impatience kicks in, and I'll be like, fine, this is what's happening. Yeah. But it's that I
hungry, I eat.
But it is that it's like I actually am so flexible with food and drink and usually activities. Sure. Like I said,
yeah.
You know, I'm like,
I'll go to a fish show.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not?
I'll sit in a box at a Rangers game when I've never been to a hockey game since the Blades were in Kansas City.
You've been to a Rangers game in a box?
First year I lived in New York.
Damn.
Blam. Only one I've been to.
Was it fun?
I only do first class in Barcelona.
Tom Segura has a great bit about never, this is long now,
Yes.
it's way different, but a long time ago, flying so much that he'll often get bumped up to first
Sure,
class,
yeah.
never have actually paid for a
No,
first class
he's got
ticket.
he's got like
But
the
he's
points.
like, I'm telling you, the second I get upgraded, I'm like, look at these pieces of shit. Like, you come up wanting to use the first class bathroom, I'll put my hand on your chest.
I've only been bumped to first class one time
Nice.
ever, and it was like the shortest leg of a two flight trip. I mean, I think I was in that plane for 45 minutes.
Sure.
And I was in 1E.
Okay. All right.
Let the record show that I did a little shirt puff here, because that's me.
By the way, that's a 75-year-old dying woman's shirt puff. if I'm quoting
From
correctly.
Okoboji, Iowa.
right.
Like, and it's quilted. It's like deeply uncool.
Man.
But, you know, as my life in Florida is so much more sedentary, you know how much I walked in New York. And I still will walk in Florida, but I have to decide to get up and walk 4 miles.
Oh, I tell people all the time about my epiphany realization when we're there and
About how much walking you really do.
but like bodegas and lawn, like I tell the 3 laundry rates, all the, you know, $1 per pound, blah blah blah, and $1.75 for whatever,
fold.
and anyway, and then at one point I think I asked enough questions about it, and you looked at me and you're like, I mean, life in New York, it really just boils down to how much do you want to carry that shit, and I was like.
Oh yeah, delivery is the 3rd rate. Yeah.
Yes. Because like somebody was like just.
I paid when I was living before I lived with Darren, and we had in-building laundry. So when I lived in that terrible little tiny apartment in Manhattan, the very first one, we had laundry on every floor. So I did my own, just walked down the hall. Then we moved to that place in Williamsburg, the 4-bedroom with all those people. There was no laundry in that whole place. And then I lived with Drew, no laundry in that place. In both of those, and then I lived by myself with like rotating people. I Airbnb'd my 2nd bedroom too because I couldn't afford it when I lived in Ridgewood. No laundry. So 3 apartments in a row for like 7 years. No laundry. And I would say for almost all of those 7 years, I used a service there where you used an app and they came to your house and picked it up. And you could have like a separate Tide bag for the things you wanted air dried inside it. And they charged you more for that, of course.
Of course.
And then they delivered it back to you.
Right.
And you had to use their bags. Like they had like branded laundry bags. But it was, let's say that doing your laundry by yourself is $1 a load. That was probably $2.10 a load. Like there's a major fee attached to the whole thing.
Yeah, but
you tip them. And I was like, yeah, but I don't have to do my laundry, and I don't mind doing laundry.
No, of course not.
Like now that there's laundry on my floor now, and I'd gladly do it.
Yeah,
but I am not. I more than once walked my incredibly heavy laundry bag to a laundromat, and it would like tear on the way.
Oh my God.
Or you'd end up having to carry it in front of you in that way that like your arms are not supposed to hold this weight. So you're trembling and then like sore for 2 days in a weird like bowling muscle.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't used those muscles in forever.
Yeah, that's why I called them.
Yeah.
Because I'm always a little sore after bowling because
Once
it's
a
like
year.
you torque. Just
But I remember like it's like we're going somewhere and it's like every fucking story has got like, and then I dipped into a bodega for a seltzer water and I'm like, why isn't anybody buying a 12-pack? And you were like,
because you don't carry that home.
and I was like,
you get your laundry, you get your laundry picked up and delivered. You get your groceries delivered, and then I mean, if you didn't have your groceries delivered, you had to have one of those old lady carts, which are not solely for old ladies, but all old people have them because they can't even bring back like their items from the Dwayne Reed.
oh my God.
How you get your toilet paper back?
So you're like, we're going to get into your list, but do your folks put on music in the house when you guys were kids? Like, I know your dad's a Beatles fan and your mom is always...
They're both Beatles fans.
Okay.
My dad more so, but they're both... I mean, there's two Beatles songs in their actual wedding ceremony.
Right.
Because they're corny.
But did they put on albums or turn on the radio, or do you have any memories of that?
I mean, I don't remember as much in the house we had they got like one of those stereo systems, with like a record player on top and a 5-disc changer. And it was a very big fancy deal at the time, like decent sound. And they had CD collections, but I think that most of the time that we actually listened to music in the house was when we were in school and me and my friends, Ruth, Claire, Gwen, and me would play CDs.
Hofer?
Now Hofer. Yeah, McGowie,
yes.
And Ruth, Russell, and Gwen, and Claire Heeser. May she rest in peace. We used to play music and write down all the tracks on a piece of paper and then write our names to it for who got to like dance for the others.
How fun.
So track by track.
Okay.
And there were a lot of like Billboard top 10 for this year. So there was a lot of 60s.
Yeah.
So, and when I was little, when I was even like just in like my preteens or like adolescence, I wanted to listen to 107.5, like the alternative radio station.
Okay.
Do you remember?
I mean,
it was literally like alternative rock when that was still a genre that was real. My parents obviously hated that. And at the time I hated that they wanted to listen to NPR because, I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you fool. My bag literally that's at my foot says public radio nerd.
Right.
And it's KCUR 98.3. So obviously times change.
Right.
But we settled on oldies.
Okay.
The family car rides were oldies radio.
Okay.
Always. I still remember all the words to everything.
I mean, we would probably, have a really good duel in that.
I mean, challenge accepted. How do we arrange it?
I mean,
and where? Because it obviously needs an audience.
yeah.
Because also, have you ever seen me karaoke? I was once told, a girlfriend of mine in New York told me she'd never seen anyone take up so much space while karaokeing because it was like a little lifted section of the bar that like had a booth in it and one table when it was regular service, but karaoke nights they'd take that table out, so you were like just a tiny bit above everyone else. And it was an open space, and I would dance around the whole dang thing.
Oh, nice.
There's videos, and
I'm sure.
I perform.
So how about making the leap from the car ride to whenever now you obviously you want to listen to 107.5, but I mean, do you have like a first record that you bought or
I remember,
a love for an album that a friend had? Or
I mean, that's like a complicated answer, but so my parents had the fancy whatever system. Anna was never really that into music. She would take offense to that now. She has. I was like, you're not that into music. And she got a little...
We had this conversation like 2 weeks ago.
But especially in high school, I remember she had cool friends. Yeah. She had cool older boyfriend.
Sure.
They like gave her things.
Yeah.
She's very receptive to music.
Yes.
But she doesn't have the same drive. My mom sings and was a drama major, and hello.
Yeah.
And that's and I have so many more feelings, so I connect to music like in a really intense way that I just don't think has always, if even now, is true of Anna.
No, and then also not everybody's like that.
No, sure. So. But for me it was.
Yes.
So I asked for a boombox, when I was like in the 6th grade.
Okay.
Anna didn't have one. She's 4 years older than me. She didn't have a boom. And that's my point. It's like, so you're like all the way in high school already and you don't even need a way to play music in your own room. She got one eventually, but
right.
I got a pop up on the top single CD cassette front load boombox. And it was delivered to me with a few CDs. I believe 3. Cranberries, No Need to Argue.
Okay.
Solid. Still love it.
Is
absolutely.
That Travel Around This Town, Let the Cops... No, that's the Jen Blossoms.
No, Cranberries was like Zombie. That was their big hit off that one, but the whole album is actually excellent, especially if you're a moody girl. I mean, after all, Siobhan or Dolores O'Riordan, that was the lead singer.
Okay.
And she killed herself a couple years ago.
God.
Yeah, so I'm like,
Can't get away from it.
All of the sad sack women are really my jam.
Jesus.
But it's true. I had all the feelings. Alanis Morissette, I told you about that. But when I got the boombox, it was given to me with like 3 pre-selected, not by me.
Right.
Cranberries, some like odd B-sides only. Oh my God, who sang, like, I'm a picker. I'm
Oh,
a
Steve
grinner.
Miller.
Yeah, but like not even one of their normal, like a true record. It was like a off-brand, the best ofs, that kind of vibe.
Yeah,
So it was like
yeah.
something I've maybe never listened to.
Right,
all the way.
right.
And Hootie and the Blowfish.
Okay. Old Darius Rucker.
Which I
He's
mean,
still around doing shit.
yeah,
I
but
mean,
it's like I didn't pick any of that out.
now did somebody else, or did it come? Did they actually
No,
come
definitely my parents picked those out.
with?
Which
Interesting.
I believe the first CD I purchased for it was Tommy James and the Shondells, which let's just talk about how uncool I am.
I mean, but that's an oldie staple.
But this is my
right?
point. But I was like, you know what? I have no music collection. You know what I need? Tommy James and the
But
Shondells. And like the Mamas and the Papas.
those are artists though that whether it's one table removed in the karaoke section of the bar, or like with a comb in front of your mirror in your bedroom. You could perform.
I was a shower singer.
Okay, there
because
you go.
I was the person who stood in a shower for 25 minutes, feeling my feelings and like practicing my Fiona Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, at least at that time, was all cassette tapes. Like I had Toadies on cassette, Presidents of USA on cassette. I bought Hell Freezes Over on cassette.
The Eagles.
That's right, son.
Okay. All right.
I stole Metallica from Anna. I stole Bette Midler from my mom.
Sure.
I love Bette Midler
Yeah.
to this day.
I mean, well, your list is super female heavy.
That's the feelings.
Strong personalities, and it starts in 1995 with Jagged Little Pill, who
Which, when we went to that concert, it was so wild. People were weeping almost the whole time. So just to prove a point,
this is you, your sister,
Leah
Brandy,
and Leah.
and Leah Krieger. Mm-hmm. That okay, and it was here.
Yeah, Anna and I bought tickets with Brandy in North Carolina because the original lineup, which was for 2020, we were gonna meet in between go someplace that wasn't Kansas City and wasn't New York. We had like an Airbnb booked, but it all got canceled because of COVID.
Right.
Got rescheduled September 2021 or whatever it was.
And like
and we just came
Crossroads, Grinders, and it rained. Is that?
No. It was arena.
Oh.
Inside.
Okay.
And it was packed.
And amazing, and people were weeping.
I bought 2 shirts and I almost never buy
One shirt.
shirts at band things. I got one that is like the cover of Jagged Little Pill and just says Alanis Morissette and then has the tour dates on the back. The other one says, "You know how those Catholic girls can be," because that's one of the songs on that album.
Well, her like devout.
Well,
raised.
she feels really traumatized by her Catholicism.
Well,
too.
but I mean, that's what she was born into. Was,
Well, I mean, so were we, and I'm somehow not quite so.
oh, devout. I mean, like,
we were pretty Catholic,
right? Yeah.
But no, I didn't feel oppressed by it. And if anything, I
Yes.
think we benefited from the community in a
Right,
way that
right.
not all Catholic communities are. I'm not even going to go there, but I thought it was like, I've got to get that, as I am one of those Catholic girls can be, But yes,
it's a fascinating flex
people
for sure.
all around us were crying. We were crying.
Because it was amazing.
And it's
Or it
all
just-
so directly that album, for everybody that loves it, which was a huge amount of people. It's like it was a hugely successful album. It's all very viscerally about. It's like we all feel those feelings so
Sure.
hard. Which that's what I mean. Like when I was like at the risk of being one note, but it's like all those female singer songwriter things is because they're. First of all, a lot of them are exceptional musicians. Like Ani DeFranco is a remarkable guitarist and lyricist. Fiona Apple plays the piano. Like, so these are like multi-talented, very serious musicians, but they all happened to me because really for the lyrics, it was like, this is speaking things that I can't put words to this well. Nico Case is actually my songbird. Like, she speaks every single album.
Spoiler alert ×4, by the way. Anywho,
you said female. I didn't know that we had to build up.
no.
to it.
Well, I just it's a joke. I will, before I forget. Anna and I went to, I think, the Bottleneck. It was definitely a Lawrence
Oh my God,
bar
I forgot
to
about
in
the
like
Bottleneck.
22. We were living on Mercer, 2008, pre-kids, I'm pretty sure, and
So
to see
08, 09?
Oh yeah, to see Mike Gordon bass
Okay.
player for Fish, and his little side blah blah blah. It was really really fun and groovy and like just kind of different. And then they encored with I've got one hand in my pocket.
Alanis Morissette.
And so like so if there's 65 people in the room, like everybody's kind of like leaning in, like this feels familiar somehow
Because it sounded so different because they're doing their own take on
and what
it.
is the and like I looked over and I have never before and never since
Seen Anna.
on the level of geeked out. And when by the time they hit she was every single word, and I was like, where is this?
And I am telling you, that is what in a packed arena,
right?
Everyone was doing that. People are like looking around and touching each other. I haven't had that much contact physically with like people I'm not with at a show, a seated show, not like obviously bumping around shoulders when you're on the floor. Since I went to Neil Diamond in college.
Oh my.
I bought my first college boyfriend was really into Neil Diamond, kind of in a jokey way, but also like for sure not. So I bought him Neil Diamond tickets for either his birthday or Christmas, whatever. And we went here in the city.
Okay.
He was my KU boyfriend.
Yeah.
We went and he played Sweet Caroline 3 times.
Mm-mm.
Yes, he did. I mean, he's a shtick. All he is a sequin shirt and some swooning older women. I mean, I think a number of those songs are excellent, but
3 times?
Yeah. I mean,
twice is an insult.
Yeah. Well, he played it 3 times. And then at some point, and I don't know during which song, I'm going to hope it was one of the renditions of Sweet Caroline since we'd had enough. He laid down on the stage, and there was at the front of the floor seats. There were seats on the floor, but at the very front, people were standing, not big enough to be in any way like an actual like floor area. It was just like there was a little space, so the first row of people were all standing. And they were right at the edge, arms in the air, like Beatles level
mayhem and insanity,
mayhem,
yeah.
reaching for Neil Diamond, who was not young even then. And he laid down on his side, which is weird, and reached his arm out into this throng of women, got somebody who was probably 30, so not an older woman at all, and like pulled her to him.
My.
And then they made out
for,
no joke, over a minute, which in the world, like in the world of me making out with people, not so long. But when
on
there's
public display, that feels like 10 minutes.
The band is still playing, but there's nobody singing, is the most awkward silence.
Wow.
And a woman behind me, who I do not know, do not know, punched me in the back. Not like really hard, but more like, you're like, whoa. But she hit me. And I turned around and she was like, that lucky bitch.
Oh my God.
And me and Dave looked at each other. We were both like, because it just made all of it more absurd because we weren't that kind of fandom. Like he was at least half a joke. And I'm like, he's got some good tunes. He's Neil Diamond. Of course, some of those are good. Like for real, some of them are actually good songs and some of them are obnoxious. You've heard them too many times. Earworms.
Well, we danced to a Neil Diamond song, your sister and I.
You danced to a Neil Young song.
Diamond.
No. What?
First of all, time out. This is how it started. Is she was like, I'm gonna get you an album by an artist you love, and I opened this present, and it's Neil Diamond, and I looked at her, and she goes, "That's not right, is it?" And I was like, "Neil
because
Young."
You do love Neil Young,
and she was like, "But this is."
God, that's exactly. I know that face that she makes you do that good.
This is. I'm telling you, singer-songwriter Neil Diamond goes up to a cabin in the woods for 6 months per Rick Rubin's assignment, comes back down, and Rick Rubin goes, "Get back up there."
Because the work was so different and better.
Good. No, meaning like you've laid down the bones. Now you got the hard. Writing that first draft is easy. The editing.
Sure. I mean, I don't think writing a first draft is easy,
but
I get the point.
But
yeah,
if it's your own shit, well, anyway, fantastic album.
What album was it?
It's called 12 Songs, And the song we danced to is called,
I remember the song. I
we
feel like I
took-
could sing some of it. And I would have staked
Love is not about we. I mean,
I would have staked my life that it was Neil Young.
no.
But
Anyway,
this is revelatory.
that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah.
Crazy. But she has always been, as not speaking as a super fan, or she's always just had this like sort of indescribable cool appeal to her. I mean,
Do you mean Alanis Morissette?
Yes.
Oh,
I mean,
yes. She is unimpeachably cool. She's like detached. She's troubled, but doesn't seem.
she's scared, but she's lonely.
She doesn't seem scary.
Right.
She's also like a pocket person. Like she is like 5'1".
Right.
She's teeny,
Right. I mean, played God in Dogma.
which I think is super appropriate.
And it was a complete surprise when those
Oh,
church.
yeah.
I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
I mean, they
for
knew
real.
what they were doing.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
And she's cut from the '74 cloth, so I feel
I didn't know
a
that.
bond there. But to me, so for whatever small generational gap there is between the two of us, like she was really post Madonna, Janet, and maybe throw Cyndi Lauper in there, but the first real big visible female presence, like I am fucking here
For
and
sure. And also not in the other ways that the female singer-songwriters that I've already mentioned and will mention or don't, whatever, spoilers, but not like a pianist. There's like,
Right.
you could name 9 moody acoustic guitar or pianist singers, and she really kind of rocked.
Well, she had Flea and Dave Navarro on You
Yeah.
Ought to Know.
And she wrote all those songs. It's like,
Do you know who drummed for the tour, for
No.
Jagged Little Pill tour?
No.
Taylor Hawkins.
who?
Taylor Hawkins.
Which is who? I knew the other two
The dude
people.
from Foo Fighters that just died.
Oh.
And
Well, that's some
do you know who
chops.
opened for her on the summer leg of that tour?
Well, was it? Whoever I wanted it to be did not make it to our leg after. It was supposed to be Liz Phair at some point.
Radiohead.
Well, shit.
Yeah.
Opening. That's just basically co-headlining. You can't call Radiohead an opener.
But this is, Jagged Little Pill is...
I was bummed out to not see Liz Phair because put her on that list of...
Jagged Little Pill's
yes,
95, so Radiohead isn't huge yet. Right?
Oh,
Creep is out.
Yeah.
Creep is definitely out, but...
I thought you meant of the more recent
No,
tour.
no. Just
Original tour.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
You're welcome, Radiohead.
right. 1986, 5 episodes of You Can't Do That on Television on Nickelodeon. I don't know if
No, we didn't have cable. My parents
Well,
didn't have cable till I went to college.
my mom's second marriage, which took us to Atlanta from 82 to 85, we had it for those 3 years. So it was like all the Nickelodeon and MTV, just, a bunch of episodes of Weeds, which was a show that I loved.
Yes, she's the obstetrician.
Yes.
And
Sex in
her
the
name
City.
is Audra, and she's dope.
Yeah, she's in Sex in the City, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Vagina Monologues.
Well, Vagina Monologue seems like a duh.
But all of which have like heavy, generous ladles in the pool. Cool, right?
You mean the cool pool?
The pool of cool. I forgot the of didn't make it out.
Yeah, and that's passive voice. Blair, you can do better.
So third of 10 records for her. I mean, how was this Friends? Just the radio? How did this record make its way into your fold? I mean,
What?
I know
Jagged Little
yeah.
Pill? I don't know. I bought it.
'Kay.
And I mean, for all of high school, for whatever part of junior high that I had access to this stuff, right? So let's say 6th grade to 12th grade at least. I spent all my money on music. All of it. I bought things I'd never heard of. I bought tickets to shows I wasn't familiar with.
Wow.
I have no way of telling what shows I went to in high school because I went to everything.
Damn.
I mean, and if I look back on it and really wanted to quantify how much money I spent, it's got to be a ton.
Well.
Because music was my jam.
Sure.
And at the time, really Napster didn't happen until I was like a junior or senior.
Right.
So the only way you could do it was buying things and going to things.
Right.
I mean, we recorded stuff off on the radio
Yeah.
on our mixtapes where you're like frantically trying to get over to the record button when you hear the first bars of the song you've been listening for.
Or if you hit it perfectly in the beginning and then they they talk over before.
And then, or like you let it go for too long at the end. Those were like the homemade mixtapes, and like I said, but I did buy Jagged Little Pill.
Sure.
And then just, feelings happened. And I played it over and over and over and over.
I can totally see it.
And over and over and over, which is how I still operate. That's why the female singer-songwriters are. 'Cause I'm like, when something hits just right and feels like something like home, then it gets played over and over, and those still get played over and over.
Well, so, that's what I say, that was 95. A year later, and now, like, right, kind of around the time this came out, I'm now in Durango, and I'm doing a radio show, and I remember, like, somehow...
This radio station, the Colorado?
What?
Right here.
It
KDUR, which sounds so much like KCUR, but is also Colorado.
The very one.
Colorado.
So I came in, and it's like there was the station manager is out, like she's like a lesbian, she's partnered, and I'm like, damn, like
because you didn't know very many out lesbians at the time,
right?
Sure.
And then the program director, who also was a Shawnee Mission East graduate. Also, and that kind of, once you turn your head that way, then you see like a lot, like there's a whole bunch of people that are in this fabric, right? And it's like, oh fuck. And so it really got keyed in when I don't know if I was there early prepping for my show or just tuned in like on my own time, but I heard somebody wrapped up their show with a live version of Anticipate, which to me,
I know what Anticipate
it's an Annie DeFranco song from her second record.
I probably know it and don't know the names.
And it's got like just...
Because I own maybe 17 or 25 Ani DeFranco records. I never like looked at the track
right,
list.
but there's some really, really phenomenal guitar playing.
Because she's like a very talented
I know,
guitarist.
but she's doing like weird hammer offs and like things that I'm making up terms because I don't even know.
I'm enjoying that. I like to have.
And so I was like, I'm gonna go deep down this hole and really, but I could never really find anything that captured me musically the way that particular song did.
Sure.
So Dilate from 96 had I think this is the one where on the cover she's like bent over and got like dreads and like
it's very gritty and poorly the image itself and like graphics are all like
but
that's because she
still
she operates
really cool.
Yeah, well, she is. Talk about the cool pool. I mean, for real, she was dunked in it like a Achilles. She's coated in the cool pool.
Emancipated from her folks at 15. Starts her own record label, Righteous
Which is
Babe,
still her record
at 19,
label.
and all of her albums.
Yeah.
And I think other people have put stuff out on that label too. I mean, but really just,
and like married to a man, then divorced him, got married to a woman or hooked long term with a woman, and then separated from her and got married to another man and had a baby. And that's like her happiest album.
Well, language nerds, I think, can agree that I don't know what the number is, but there's definitely a collection of words that really used to like mean a thing, and then we, just run it out there for any old thing, and it loses, like Pioneer.
Okay.
She was, for me, like in independent, like, fuck you, I'm a musician, I'm going to put my shit out, and then to be successful. Like, that was the first time I was like, whoa,
well,
dude.
To be a young woman,
yes,
both things checked usually against you, who removed herself from upstate New York to New York City at 18, 17, like, is bonkers. During the
big set of ovaries.
Before New York felt at all safe.
Right.
Like not a peak New York moment. And the work she put out, like, I listened to a song where she's 19 because she says a phrase, after 19 times around I have found, meaning obviously 19 times around the sun. And it's like, what? Because that song is still magnificent. Like, it's not.
Do you think that she's like, divorced and has kids and like
such
been through an economic crisis?
so much emotional maturity and eloquence.
Yes.
And so many incredible turns of phrases.
I love you mentioned the little Cliff's Notes look into her romantic life. There's a 2019 interview with Jezebel where she says she prefers the term queer as bisexual sounds medical, like what you do to a frog in ninth grade science or something. The irony is that I'm pretty fucking hetero, which is unfortunate for me because many of my deepest connections are with women, but nah, I just like what's in boys' pants better.
Oh my God. Those could be written by me. My friends, so I found like a clutch of lesbians in my like latter years in New York.
Really?
And I love them all so much.
Are you still in?
I hung out with one the most. She's sort of how I got there. I met her through friends. And we just got along really well. And we started hanging out a lot. And then those hangouts started to look like dates.
Ooh.
You know, we'd meet for happy hour and play pool and have a beer.
Are you about to invite me to Spain?
And then, well, and she's to this day the only woman I've been with. Because they started to look like dates, and I did. She's still my friend, and she is attractive and stylish, and like low key,
sure,
and funny and kind, and like
it's checking all the boxes.
We have all the same interests.
Literally,
we got along like crazy good. So that's like we just hung out more and more, and then it was like there were clear flirt vibes, and I was like attracted to her.
Sure.
And it was really when I started having conversation with myself that I think was probably been true forever, where it's like
your father so often does conversations with himself.
No, he's like muttering. I'm kidding.
Me too.
But you know, like what is it? The Kinsey scale, and that's like not 100% like a modern measurement, but it is the only thing where it was like considered an actual numbered gradient of hetero to homosexual.
Okay.
And that we all live.
How do you spell that?
Kinsey, like the guy who did all this. But Kinsey.
That's what I was gonna guess.
Yeah. But that's still the only like numeral scale for the spectrum of sexuality and gender. And I was like, I don't know if I feel like I'm a gay man inside because I get along with gay men so well, and I'm such a quote unquote fag hag and love it. But I'm also, turns out, like kind of a gay girl hag, whatever we call that.
Sure.
And I'm certain there's a phrase.
There is. I don't think it's very catchy or clever.
Yeah,
but if you're like, all right,
probably doesn't rhyme. But
yeah, no.
When I started hanging out with her, and then we did, and she was like, we're gonna end up having sex, and I was like, I'm straight, like super straight, and she was like, we're gonna end up having sex, and I was just like. And then as we hung out, I mean, it felt real because I felt physical attraction to her.
Sure.
And the chemistry was so good. We hooked up one time, and the whole time I felt super uncomfortable.
Oh, shit.
I didn't like it.
How about that?
Yeah, how about that? Super sucks.
I just like what's in boys' pants better.
I was like, so... And she jokes still when I lived there and like, only wear like glittery mini skirts and sheer stockings. And then a flannel shirt with my Dickies work jacket over it and my Carhartt hat and then red lipstick. She was like, you're gayer than all the people I know that are gay. And I was like, right? All except for like that sex part.
Right.
Like, so it's like,
tiniest detail.
Yeah. I'm like, am I a gay woman? Am I a gay man hiding inside a gay woman who's really straight?
I mean, I'll give you another 40 years to figure it out.
And I have like some masculine energy. Like men I'm with, like I get along with men so well.
Sure.
Like there's some stuff. I was like, maybe I'm a little queer gender-wise, but not at all sexuality-wise, and maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, this...
But Ani gets me.
I mean, this Anticipate, it was... I found it on a live record from 97.
Reveling and Reckoning?
No, Clip, I think.
Living in Clip.
Living Clip. But it was on the studio version was on her second record. But Dilate, how did you cross paths with Dilate?
Honestly, so like, I don't know how they got there, but when I was like carpooling to St. Teresa's all the time with Maggie and Natalie, do you know those girls?
Maggie
McKee is who it was. She's married now. And Natalie
Ruhr. Is she one of your people that you traditionally would connect with over holiday breaks?
I mean, in college, yes, we've definitely drifted apart.
Okay.
She also lived in Denver. Maggie did.
Okay.
But Maggie was like my best friend in junior high. And Natalie went and her had been friends for like, we all went to St. Peter's, so known each other our whole lives, and then went to St. Teresa's. We carpooled. Claire carpooled with us, and I don't know how that happened that they found out about. But so it was like playing, and I didn't have a car. I was the youngest because I don't turn until the summer after a year. You know, like whatever age everybody else is. The whole year I am the summer after that year. So I'm in everybody else's car, and I don't know how they got onto it, but they were.
Okay.
And then it was like in the spirit of the way I buy everything, and regardless of what I know. And Mom used to like occasionally actually do like BMG Music Club for us.
Oh shit.
Like,
Okay.
not once or twice, but not all the time.
Sure.
But she'd be like, "We're gonna do it this time. You circle 4, you circle 4."
Hey.
And
Shouts out to Mary Jo.
the options in those selections were always really odd. Like nothing that was actually totally current or popular.
Right.
So I would just look for the names of bands I knew at all. You know, like that I'd even heard of.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it was stuff you.
It's a safe.
Definitely how I got like some Violent Femmes.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
because I was like, oh, I know this, but I didn't know the CDs. So I just started buying things. I definitely bought 4 Ani DeFranco CDs without
Nice.
really knowing what I was doing. You know, put them on. And now here I am 100 years later,
Being like,
100% obsessed with
was
her.
she talking about me in that quote? So if we stay in the same year, but dip for a quick second away from the ladies, we
Sure.
got Pinkerton by Weezer.
Still, I think one of the best records of all time.
And we kicked it off with sort of 2 Canadian kind of roots, and now we're in LA. For me, Buddy Holly, Say It Ain't So, Sweater Song, Beverly Hills, like those.
Beverly Hills came after Pinkerton.
I know, but that's really all I have on these
Now,
guys.
those first, I mean, the Blue Album, that's their
Right,
first,
yeah.
is amazing.
Yes.
But it is more traditional pop. Like, it has a little bit of an edge, but it's a pop record. And I have nothing wrong with, I'm not an anti-pop person.
It's a pop record with some, like, a little bit of intention in the fidelity.
Yes, because
like, of
they're
the production.
nerds. Because
Right.
and I mean, when I was, the first computer my parents got, I think they got when I was in the 7th grade, and I immediately made the background a tiled picture of Rivers Cuomo. I was obsessed with him.
Okay.
I still like a man in glasses.
Yes,
Yes,
that
I do.
tracks. That tracks.
I mean, like a nerdy musician in glasses who appreciates music and words. Like, okay, too bad he's only into Asian girls. He's well documented.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I've got the receipts, I think they say.
yes, but I love that Blue Album. I went to so many Weezer shows. I don't know how many I went to. I got a perfectly shaded turquoise of the Blue Album T-shirt. Went to the place where when I was in high school we did a lot of T-shirt making for each other. We did it for like birthdays.
Oh, really? Cool.
Me and Megan Betterman put together a scavenger hunt when we were seniors for like 25 girls. An actions scavenger hunt. So you didn't go find things. You had to go do things like drive through backwards, fake an orgasm in a library.
Oh my God.
We made a list. Me and Aaron and Megan, Aaron Smith, Aaron Laughlin. We did this together and then divided everyone up into teams, and everybody made us T-shirts as the bosses. It had like a logo and then our names on the back, like a jersey. And we did it all the time. Jeannie Neenan made more T-shirts for people. She was also a mega mix CD maker.
Okay. Nice.
We did a lot of this stuff. Most people still have the mixtapes I made them. Beth Maggard told me I was the best.
That's who I'm thinking of.
Beth Maggard
Yes.
is still the tops. She's top notch.
That's not who you were talking about a minute ago. That's married now. And
She is married
no,
now.
I know,
Yes,
but
they all are now.
no, I know. Anyway, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I like her a lot.
She's top notch, man. There's nothing not to like. I got super lucky in the fact that all the people I befriended in like grade school and high school are still people I'm friends with.
Right.
And I'm like would choose them again currently.
Right.
Like it's not just
Right.
longevity. But I got a T-shirt exactly that color, and then I printed out the word Weezer, the logo, took it to the T-shirt store, made them make the Weezer just into a transfer, and then put it on the shirt that was the exact same turquoise, so that I was wearing the blue album as a T-shirt.
Well, the cover art for this one
Is very intense and Asian, actually. Very Asian inspired.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And this guy,
Yes, this is Japan. It has to be, or China.
Night Snow at Kambara is.
Where do we think Kambara is?
Well,
Japan
over
or
there.
China.
Yeah. It's just to the right of Iceland and Greenland.
But I mean, by the shape, these are like pagodas, and it's in snow. And
Yes.
the hats.
But he like this. There's a lot of mental health stuff with I think him, and like some dips into depression and actually like
He considered this his baby. This was his artistic.
Well, so there's
opus.
I didn't stay there a long time, but it kind of looked like a lot of the tracks had to do with like the idea of a relationship that was never to be, or a failed relationship, and one of kind of just glancing, he got a letter from a gal, I think in Japan, and he was
yes,
like,
and there's a whole song about it, and it's amazing.
yes, and he was like, immediately I'm like super attracted, and also,
And she was probably too young. There's an aspect of that in
well,
there.
but also I'm like being crushed by the depression that is the reality that I'll never meet this person. So a whole lot of
Oh yeah, it's so. I mean, there's like a lot of writing out there about this album because it was critically acclaimed, and it's exceptional. But it was such a huge departure from the first album that a lot of people were thrown. Their fans were like, "What is this? This is like a different situation entirely," and it didn't do commercially very well. But like musically, if you taking a step back, it's like,
right,
this is excellent work. But it got panned so hard, and his label so disavowed it because of this, that it, and this is part of the reason I love it, is because I'm like, because this is fucking excellent work, and it's just so discouraging to me that anybody would be like, because it didn't get understood.
I thought by the time it all came out, and everything that you're saying came out in the wash, that he was like, yeah, this is a garbage record.
I think, well, that maybe
or maybe
is
at one point,
true. Yeah. Well, I mean, the very next album was all green and just a total reversion to the
back to
the formula. And then he got cornier. They got cornier and cornier. The Red album was cornier. I mean,
they put out 14 fucking records.
And I've seen him live since then, and he jumps off the stage. Like, I saw him at a festival somewhere.
Sure.
God knows where. Maybe Lawrence.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But jump off stage and like just totting around, and he's not a tall man, so you could actually lose him in a crowd. Even if he is the lead singer and he's got a guitar, you're like, I don't know where Rivers just went.
Right. Well, let's skip forward a few years. Fiona Apple, when the Pawn, however.
When the Pawn, that is actually like a full 2 sentences long title, but
I thought that you were abbreviating, and then I found when the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king, and I thought that that's what you were abbreviating. No. Do you know this?
No, I do not know the whole title. It's very long.
It used to hold the Guinness World Record for
it's a
most
paragraph.
characters.
I can see that piece of paper. Do I get to read it out loud?
Do.
Oh my God, you know how much I love reading out loud?
I suspected that you might.
It isn't just because I like the sound of my own voice,
printed this. I printed this, and I was like, I'm going to read this out. Eva's going to read this out.
I used to sit in the basement of my parents' house holding textbooks that we got from Packet Day when they let you take the old textbooks, and hold the book open to empty desks in the basement and read out loud.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a normal person.
Yeah, we might cut that last little part
No,
out.
you won't. I own my shit.
Right.
When the pawn hits the conflicts, he thinks like a king. What he knows throws the blows when he goes to the fight, and he'll win the whole thing before he enters the ring. There's no body to batter when your mind is your might. So when you go solo, you hold your own hand. And remember that depth is the greatest of heights. And if you know where you stand, then you know where to land. And if you fall, it won't matter, because you'll know you're all right. That you're right. God, I just improvised a word there.
That was the fucking name of this record.
Yeah. If
or
you look,
is the name
when
of
you
this...
look at the album cover, it's reddy black, and there's like a watermark image, and then this is handwritten.
Okay.
In almost entirely illegible scrawl.
Oh, interesting.
You can read When the Pawn, and then the rest of it is her handwriting, and you can't. Maybe you can read it, but you wouldn't. You wouldn't necessarily think to, because it doesn't 100% look like it's real.
Well, sort of like when I first heard that Ani DeFranco song and was like, I'm all in. So Sheryl Crow comes out and Liz Phair's not far behind, and I'm like, I'm on board. And then Tidal comes out, and for whatever reason, I tried and I detoured, and then sort of have only really associated her with that record, her first, I believe.
Title's also excellent.
It is, but this one opens with a track called "On the Bound," which is unbelievable. I was like, "What in the fuck?" And so then I start reading. I was like, "Oh my god, she has been through it."
I mean, she has been through it. Do you know what I said to? Oh, Anna and I went up to Keeley's on Christmas just for like a hot second.
Like two days ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot second visitor. She had her kids, her husband's brother was there or something. And I haven't seen her kids since they were teeny.
Sure.
Like maybe when Lola had cancer kind of teeny.
Right. Yeah.
Teeny. And I was like, minus all the like body issues and like total social trauma, I was like, did you know that Lula's like looking a little like Fiona Apple? Like she has this long kind of thin, so it's just like a little stringy hair.
Minus all the what?
Super. Fiona Apple struggled a lot with like anorexia,
and abuse. Not Keeley and Bo's
child.
So I
said minus all the body issues.
She has always
and
been a very, very striking, attractive human. As a newborn, when she went through all her stuff, I see pictures.
They were such pretty little dolly babies. I mean, both of them are very attractive people, so it's not like super surprising.
Well,
but she looked like Fiona Apple to me.
Wow, had Keeley heard that before?
She was like, "I see it." That's all. So,
right.
So no.
Classically trained on piano and composing songs by 8. Tidal has songs she wrote in her teens.
See, I have excellent taste in women.
So 96 for Tidal. This When the Pawn is 3 years later. She did an 05, a 12, and then a 20. So just big chunks.
There was one of those that is like I'm super attached to too. But I wouldn't be able to think of the album name. I can only think of songs.
Sure. She's OCD, depression, anxiety, complex PTSD. Raped at age 12.
I was going to say there's a lot of sexual abuse
outside of the apartment. So mom's in New York with stepdad and then dad's in LA or something. And I think there's some summers out there. Anyway, 2000 interview to say, no. All you guys that say that my trauma associated with the rape makes it into the songs. It doesn't make it into the writing. It's a boring pain. It's such a fucking old pain that, there's nothing poetic about it.
Oh my God. That's like a super tragic thing to even have to say.
But, talk about awareness. Like, holy fuck, man. 10 tracks, 42 minutes, second of 5 records. The first time you really listen to this record.
Her musicality is impressive. You can, it swells.
It's
it
palpable.
Moves.
Yes.
It's tactile.
But there's the casual here, and then there's like the mindful, sit down and listen. Like, do you remember this When the Pawn having an experience on you that?
It's so funny because it's like I don't remember how I entered these things. Maybe just because of how long it's been. Maybe because I casually purchased it. Like these are like it could have. I don't know. But I listened to that album. I listened to Tidal over and over and over. I did. I was a sad teenager.
Right.
Like this is not surprising. If you're struggling with anxiety and depression at a youngish age and it's all around you, which it was for me, like in my fellows, my peers, not just like in the zeitgeist or the like books and music we listened to and read, which it was, but it was like that was the only articulation I had was other people's words.
Sometimes that suffices and can
I
bridge you to a next thing. I've told people
it's like a guy I knew when I lived in Denver was like, because I'm so into Atmosphere, you know how I feel about Atmosphere, which is sad white.
I don't know what you mean by Atmosphere.
Atmosphere is a hip hop duo from Minnesota.
Okay, I don't.
They've been around a long time. They were very popular in the 90s. They're indie rap, but they're also like emo indie white dad rap. That's like a good like that. And
It says that in the
no, but
thing.
although
Right.
he does reference it a number of times.
Sure.
It's just one MC and a producer.
Okay.
I actually dated the producer.
Oh shit.
I mean,
All
yeah,
right.
you know, famous people love me. I made him chase me for a while too.
Oh my God.
Oh, I did.
Wow.
He didn't invite me to Barcelona though, but I never paid for a ticket to an atmosphere show.
There you go. Hey, small. What do you know? Small victories. But there's a lot of good tracks on here. The Way Things Are, Get Gone. Just to name
I
a
love
couple.
Get Gone.
So, I mean, she's having barely listened to Tidal and then now listen. Like, man,
Yeah, right.
I thought she kind of vanished after Tidal, but nope.
She just didn't. She doesn't produce
Right.
frequently or like a ton.
So we then finally step out of the 90s and we land in 2013. The worse things get, the harder I fight, the more I love you, Nico Case. And I swear to God that I think you and I went through our Nico Case
Phase at the same time.
Yeah, and not to say that they were equal, but I definitely remember seeing you post more than once randomly, and that is not a thing that I think I recall you doing, but being like, she is fucking in this. Wow. And I was too.
Every year when Spotify does your yearly rap, for like 5 years, it has just been your number one most listened to artist is Nico Case. And then it gives you like a stat underneath that. And it says you listen to her in the top 1% of everyone in America.
Right.
I was like, oh my God.
So,
every year there are 99% of people listen to her less than me.
When, so I somebody turned me, there's a gal named Julia Mordaunt, and she is the creative director for Fish. And somebody in a group, a Facebook group, shared a playlist that she created, and it's got all of their walk-in, intermission, and after-show music from 2009 to current.
Interesting.
So it's 10.5 thousand hours and 600 records, and it is literally all I play.
Interesting.
On my Sonos in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's just on shuffle because I don't pay for Spotify. But if I hear something amazing, I'll add it to the streaming.
To your playlist.
So when the year things came out, I mean, it was like,
when they're trying to put you in a genre, they're like chill hop, which is somebody.
No, just the numbers, the sheer number, because it literally plays
yeah.
round the clock. It was like you listen to 330 some thousand, and you're an astronaut, and all these crazy, and people are sharing there. I'm like, and people are like, what the fuck? I'm like, that's not. It's like
you're like, I have a cheat.
Yeah. Anyway, so Alexandria, Virginia, but it's lived in Massachusetts, Vermont, Oregon, Washington. 7 studio albums. This is number 6. Couple live records. Healthy mix of other projects, including 8 records with the New Pornographers.
Because she's and the New Pornographers are pretty good.
No slight to anybody else on this list or anybody else that we haven't covered, but she is on a pedestal for. I can't exactly identify all of the reasons, but there's a bunch of them. I just really admire her a lot, and I don't even know if I can articulate it.
Her. Obviously, I'm like her number one fan. I mean, maybe this could maybe technically true. According to Spotify, I might be her number one fan.
Night Still Comes is track 2. Man is track 3. Both are so good.
Oh my God.
And so
I
different.
love Man. Oh yeah. The variety. She's really, all of her albums are different too. She has great scope, but I love I'm a Man. I love that album.
I don't know. It's almost like, so she obviously, creates a variety of sounds from song to song, but there's almost always this identifiable, she's just a little bit back from the mic.
Yeah, she does weird echoey stuff, especially on that album.
And it's like a fucking blanket. It's like a
a little ASMR vibes to it.
Yeah.
Did you listen to that song on that album, the Honolulu?
It's the title is some.
Hey, little kid.
But something strange happens, and then she mentions that it's in Honolulu, right?
Yeah, she says, that I saw at the bus stop one day. It was nearly midnight in Honolulu.
Yeah.
We were waiting. I mean, I know, but I played it for.
Nearly midnight, Honolulu.
There
yeah.
you go. You were waiting. And then, but it's so like low key when she's singing that, and it's sentences, not so much like lyrics.
Right.
Like she's telling a little
No
story.
pentameter happening here.
And then she just bursts when she talks about that mother telling that kid to get the fuck away from her. I played it it came out when I lived with Laura in Williamsburg in that 4-bed, and Laura was struggling with some stuff with her own parents at the time.
Okay.
And I was like, this album. Whoa. And my Carrie, our other roommate, also loves Nico. She's the only person I've gone to a Nico Case show with.
Was it fun?
I mean, it was like I had goosebumps the whole time.
God.
Like you stayed seated, but you were like,
sure.
Like my whole body is alive.
You're right. Should we all stand up at once? Let's go.
Like I'm sure there were people crying in that too.
Yeah.
Like, quieter.
Mm-hmm.
But I played that song for Laura, who struggles with just like some parental relationships. And
sure.
That song, she was like, how dare you fucking play this for me right now? Because it was like...
She was being facetious.
No, she was not. Because you know how it says it's like, they won't believe you when you say your mother, she did not love me. My mother, she did. It's like just...
yeah.
I mean, that's everybody's like going to press a button for everybody in some way. Because it's like...
Right.
Because parent relationships are tender, even if whether they're bad or good, we have feelings about it. But she was just like, how can you play that in my presence right now? Because it's just devastating.
You'll thank me later. It's maybe a rough swallow right now.
I love the things that make me cry. Like that's why I even brought up Atmosphere with this guy. It was like, do you ever listen to things that aren't sad? And I was like, I have to like I express like a zit, like I play like shit, this sad music so that it squirts all my feelings out.
Well, Louis, there's a great bit. He's on Conan, and talking about cell phone, like just everything's amazing and nobody's happy is the name of the little bit. Yeah, and he's like, so I was on a flight, and it was like they just announced that there could be Wi-Fi on flights. And so we take off. We're so excited to let you know, and everybody gets on, and then we're in the air for a little bit, and then something happens and it breaks. And like, God, we're sorry. And the guy next to me goes, "Fucking bullshit." And he's like, "You didn't even know this was a thing like 4 minutes ago." And then like we hate my fucking phone. It's like it's going to space. Can you give it a second? And so he talks about driving on the highway, and this Bruce Springsteen song comes on, and he's already feeling a little blue, and he's like. That starts to, and so he reaches for his phone because that's what we do when we feel lonely. We try, and he's like, I just text hi to 20 people, and whoever responds first, just get, but I was like, no, don't do it. Just sit there and be, and then so he's like, I cried so hard I had to pull over, and I'm sobbing, and then because what happens chemically. After you're sad and you cry, like things come in and like sort of bring the happiness out. And he's like, we don't even want to do that anymore. We just,
I do.
Well, really good record though. There's a couple of I know we need to get you out of here. There were some miscellaneous notes, some compilation CDs pilfered from your mom. Any worth mentioning?
Well, those were like the Billboard top 10s. And I told you about that one goofy one called Calling All Angels.
Yes.
Which, if you look back on it, is like some very odd
I looked
stuff.
for it on the streaming service and nothing was coming up.
But if you just Google it, I bet you could get a track list.
Yeah.
It's like a couple of odd Irish singers. It's all very
funny.
Like Enya Moody, like very ethereal. I mean, it's called Calling All Angels.
Yeah.
One of the songs is Calling All Angels.
I do love me some Enya.
I don't hate Enya.
And I don't mind Enigma either. I mean,
I'm fine with yes.
Single tracks from every major pop girl in the last 2 decades, such as...
I have a playlist called T-Swift Teenage Dream.
Well,
Do the math.
I thought those were separate.
No, it's one playlist.
Oh.
It's got Lizzo, several Lizzo tracks.
Okay.
Several T-Swift tracks. A Katy Perry, although she's not like 100% my favorite, but it's got to get in there.
Yeah.
A little bit of Lorde.
Okay.
There's a very sad song by Lorde that I played when Anna came to visit me in Florida. And we both just were like, she had never heard it before, because she doesn't have all the access.
Yeah, right,
The kids give her some access to that stuff
They
now,
do, yeah.
But she hadn't heard it. And we were both just like crying a little.
Oh my gosh.
And then she was like, what is that song we were listening to in the car? And I was like, what it is, oh my God. I mean, I know the words to it exactly. It actually says like it's like, I made a mistake of dancing in your stuff. Say, you're a little much for me. You're a little, like that other people. And then she's like, the truth is I am a toy that you can enjoy until all the tricks don't work anymore.
Oh my God.
And then you are bored of me. And I'm like, oh yeah.
This is Never Be Royals, Lord?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's only the way I've felt about everybody I've ever met in my whole life, is that I'm like the shiny object that people play with. And then they're like, oh, God, it comes with a lot of maintenance.
So you said T-Swift Teenage Dream is full of bangers.
It is. There are dance jams on that forever.
Okay. Nice.
There's a couple of sad ones in there because but it's more bangers. The one, Miley Cyrus is on there a few times.
Okay.
You know, like, I don't love Miley Cyrus, but I'm telling you,
I don't
she had
dislike
an
her.
album called Bangers.
I mean,
with a Z.
Yeah. Nice.
Into it.
Sad Bops playlists.
I mean,
same thing.
Same-ish,
okay.
Yeah. Like there's a beat, but they're
some stuff to try out, which has a boggling variety. Is that different or same?
No, that is so basically, like you said, that whatever you play in the kitchen, it's my catch-all playlist.
There you go.
It's a bunch of whenever I am exposed to, often on television shows actually, because television, content production, the quality of it has skyrocketed since there was a lot of cable channels, since Hulu and Netflix even started, and then triple that after COVID because all anyone was doing was consuming
Binging.
content.
I love my favorite COVID meme was, finished Netflix today.
Yeah. Well, but the production level, so the money they're putting into it and the music licensure has gone out of control. So I am constantly hearing just snippets, snatches of songs on a show. And I'm like, well, I really like this.
Yeah.
Shazam has made that playlist happen a lot. But it's all over the place.
Right.
Because there's like reggae and electronica, sad shit, old shit. It's so I meant to send a guy I was seeing, Felipe, I meant to send him a song because he and I used to share songs back and forth. He was really into music and had good taste. We decided that together we could like rule the world with our taste in music because he was Chilean and not native born American and just it's like the Venn diagram. We overlapped on plenty, but it's like we would have covered
have the globe,
everything else between him and me. Like so much stuff that I'd never heard, he gave me, and he'd never heard so much that I gave him. Speaking
of old stuff, I am a little more than a little embarrassed to admit this, but one of the many reasons that Nico has always appealed to me is I absolutely love Train from Kansas City. I didn't realize that was not a Nico original.
She does a lot of non-originals.
Well, but I just for years I was like, another thing.
But her versions are great.
Yes.
Have you heard the song
Shangri-La's from 1965?
Oh my God, the Shangri-La's.
Right.
I know the Shangri-La's.
Anyway,
have you heard the song of hers that was on the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" soundtrack?
100%.
It is so
well. That whole soundtrack is
so. Well, yeah, great. There's so many things.
All right, a few more and we'll get you out of here.
Okay.
Imagine you agreed to do this podcast, but the host is a person that has never met you before, and said host also has an assistant. How is the assistant describing you to the host?
Well, if it was someone I'd never met before, my personality would be completely different. I don't perform well under pressure unless I'm very comfortable. Do you remember the speech I gave at your wedding? It was 2 sentences.
That was kind of no. Was it really?
Yeah.
2 sentences?
I went right after my dad before your best man.
Okay.
Papa gave like a solid, not overlong, but very heartfelt dad speech.
Yeah.
That ended with, here's to the most beautiful bride in the world. And I'm such a poor public speaker because expectations and I can talk to strangers, no problem. Sit me down next to people in a casual, no pressure environment. Chitty chat. Making friends, getting a phone number.
Right.
Any kind of structure, I panic. I gestured to a blank board. I turned my back to the room in speech class at KU freshman year, shuffled my cards for my speech till they didn't make sense. Then in my anxiety and nervousness, because I could no longer read my speech, turned my back to the room and did a Vanna White gesture to a blank board. And these were videotaped that we had to transcribe every word and motion. This is my level of like not good at public speaking.
Wow.
And I was the maid of honor at your wedding. So I went right after my dad, and I had a mostly empty Miller Lite and then a full Miller Lite bottles, holding one hand, two, like so, and the mic in this hand.
Double fisting in a single fist.
Double fisting it in a single fist on the stage at your very formal wedding. And I said, the only reason Anna's the most beautiful bride is because I'm not married yet.
That sounds familiar.
And then I was like, and people laughed because
Yeah, of course.
Anna and my mom, and it's like they all know me. You guys know me.
Yeah.
It's not like anyone would have thought I was actually being a jerk.
Right.
I was probably physically shaking. And I was just like, seriously though, I love you guys both. Like, so happy. Congrats. And then just like walked away. And then of course Mike got up and gave like an epic best man speech with props. There were baby shoes and such.
Yeah, and the belt. Yeah.
That's how I function. So I'm gonna guess that assistant would be like, she keeps making jokes that are oddly timed and not quite appropriate because that's the way I get when I'm nervous.
So there's unless there's like a predetermined comfort, there's no layers of the onion peeling to look in and be like, here's how we describe Eva.
I mean, I don't know if I would end up talking more or talking less because I was uncomfortable. Either is really an option.
Let's say this assistant has vetted you. You've flown in a couple times and sat across the desk and.
Okay, then a very gregarious, funny, chatty know-it-all. Yeah.
I think that's if there was a nail. Okay. Tomorrow you wake up and money is no longer a concern. There's more than you could spend before you're dead. Does your life look different? And if so, is it very different?
Yes.
Or what does it look like?
I don't think I'd live where I'd live.
Okay.
I don't think I'd work the job I have. I would pay off. I've thought about it. If I like hit the like billions dollar jackpot, I know what I'd spend it on. I've talked about it a lot. I'd pay off my parents' house, Anna's student loan debt, my student
their
loan
house
debt.
isn't paid for yet?
I don't know. But if they're not, I would. My plan was always also to pay off her house. Like I was like, I'd pay off Anna's house. I'd pay off her student loan debt. I'd pay off my student loan debt. Whatever. Pay my parents back. Buy them a new house. Do something.
Sure.
So a lot of practical things.
Yep.
And then probably work only a job that I actually enjoyed for lesser hours. I wouldn't quit working.
Right.
Because I like working.
Yeah.
And I want to be productive and industrious. But I would be working something that probably wouldn't be sustainable otherwise.
Right.
And definitely I'd go on some big ass trip, maybe for like 2 years.
Sure.
So,
or a bunch of trips.
Yeah.
I mean,
and maybe forever.
Any big bucket list items that are constantly speaking to you? No matter how loud or how quiet, there's not a thing you're just like, God, I'm going to fucking do that one day. Or
no, I mean, because always what it's been for me is travel. And I actually want to go so many places that I actually never will.
Okay.
Like, because I won't be able to go everywhere.
You're given a platform for 45 seconds and the whole world is tuned in. What's your message? Whether it's as short as your speech at our wedding or you take all 45 seconds. What is
my God, I have no idea. God, I need some convictions, huh? It's like I want to say something about like real equality and kindness, but I wouldn't know how to formulate that right now.
You just be like, I like what's in boys' pants better. Good night, Australia.
No, I don't think that concerns the whole world, so I'd hope not.
That doesn't matter if it concerns them. They're just listening.
I just want to be like, treat everybody the same and treat them right.
Right. Okay. Finish this sentence for me. I'd like for folks to remember me as someone who
was kind, but I'm not sure they will.
I'd like the world to remember me as someone who got an A for effort and kindness.
I mean, my senior year yearbook superlative has the best vocabulary. I don't think that's what people are like really thinking of as like world changing.
Right. Okay. Well, last but not least, we're about to turn the page to 2023. What does the world of music consumption look like approaching New Year's Eve of 2042?
I have probably chips implanted in our eyebrows. Have you seen those new glasses that are made with Facebook? They're smart glasses. You can tap them to start playing music.
Oh my God.
And record and take video from your lenses. So
wow.
I'm just going to go ahead and jump 10 years from that. It's just going to be something on your eyeball.
I mean, you're probably not too far off.
I know.
But
also, then what biodata are they getting to us, and what's it doing to our body?
But I mean, like in 2002, were iPods around yet? They were like ish. They were kind of here.
They were just the original chonky one.
But mostly folks were like CD or satellite. I mean,
burn CDs where you could burn whole MP3 CDs, so it had like 100 tracks on it.
Yeah.
And your car could read them too,
yeah.
usually.
I mean, but it's like if you would have asked me in 2002 to tell me what music in 2020, I don't think that I would have been like, everybody's streaming, duh, and you can have thousands of...
No. But I mean, I guess we should have seen that after the Napster LimeWire situation.
Probably. Well,
but here we are.
We were going to get you out of here much quicker than this.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm fine with you. You're the one that have places to be.
I do. I'm being paged by several people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A million reasons prior to today that you could have been like, no thanks, I'm good.
and then
and then today,
the last few days,
you could have been like, no, just no.
I was like, if I called and canceled right now, that would just be a thing and a dick move. And I'm like, also, just let's just do it.
I love it.
Plus,
Thank you.
you gave me an alcoholic beverage.
I mean, you know, if I have things to give, I'll give them. It's not like I'm sitting here like, no, all for me.
That's my theory on life, actually.
But probably, month-ish or so, because I've got a small bank of things. Anyway.
And it's the holidays.
Right.
Give yourself some time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right,
I will keep you in my thoughts for the next couple days.
Thank you.
But after that, fuck you. Yeah. Forget it. You're on your own.
You're going to set a timed race.
Right. Thanks, Eva.
All right. See ya.
Bye.